All right, everyone. How are we doing right now? Hmm? Plusquamperfect? Plusquamperfect? Oh, wait. Plusquamperfect. That sounds like back when I had to learn Spanish. There was like one of the tenses, like past tense, present tense. There was one super confusing tense, which was called plusquamperfecto. I wonder if your name is based off of that. Plusquamperfect sounds very suspiciously similar. Similar. A lot of s's. Anyway, you're an idiot. Get ready for it to be 1 hour late. I'm early, almost. I'm at least not that late. uh, yeah, this is maybe the earliest I've been in some time. How did it happen? I skipped the gym. That's how. Anytime I'm super early, that's why. Um, yeah, where we at? Oh shit. Timmy Queen asked me a ranking. Guess the rankings for hey Morj. Guess the rankings for Straw Hats post time skip. The rank. Wait, this is not an objective question, right? Oh, and El Aichi Muhammad, welcome to the Supernova. Thank you for joining. Um, the ranking, like the strength ranking. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Everyone can hear me. Okay, right? If everyone can hear me, then I'm just gonna keep going. The rankings for Strahd post time skip. So if you mean strength rankings, I don't think there's an objective answer for that, right? I'm gonna assume you mean ranking in terms of based on your other questions, right? Who shows up the most frequently in terms of panel time? So in that case, I feel like it's gotta be shit. This is tricky because half the crew got shipped off during Dressrosa. So how do you weigh? I feel like Whole Cake Island characters got more screen time though than a lot of the characters in Dressrosa. Okay, so let's say Luffy number one, easy. Luffy number one. Is it Sanji number two just because of Dress or Whole Cake Island screen time? Luffy one, Sanji two. Luffy one, Sanji two. Zoro. I feel like Nami got a lot of panel time in Whole Cake Island. Zoro, Nami, Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, Nami. I feel like Usopp got a lot of panel time in Dressrosa, but then very little in Wano. So let's not say Usopp, unless maybe it is just Usopp. Maybe it's Jinbei. No, Jinbei's not. Fuck, man, this is hard. I feel like, can I say they're all last? None of the Strides have had that much screen time post time skip relative to what they deserve at the very least. Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, Nami. I'm gonna say Usopp because he got. Nah, it's. Usopp's wrong. I just feel like Usopp got decent. Like, he got a lot of time in Dressrosa. I don't know, man. Brook. Jinbei should be towards the bottom. Frankie towards the bottom. Robin towards the bottom. I want to say the bottom three are Robin, Frankie, and Jinbei. Brook, Robin, Frankie, Jinbei should round out the bottom. And then I'm going to say either Chopper or Usopp is ahead of them. And then the top four is Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, Nami. That's my best guess. Don't know if I'm right. Rafael Rizzi Iglesias, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 3 months. What a great name. Hey, Morj, what do you think happens in 11:05? I hope that we get some shuffling of matchups. I hope we get a bit of Sanji and Frankie versus Kizaru. I hope we get to see Zoro and Lucci. Or some swapping of opponents. So, as I said, some shuffling of matchups. I would like to see what Luffy's up to. And, the thing I'm kind of anxious about is the direction that this whole Kuma situation is going. If they're gonna find a way to save him or not. I hope they don't, just for the sake of the story. So, let's wait and see. Evil Friend, thanks for the 2. You ever do a one-player soundtrack tier list stream? I'm not equipped to do that. Like a one-player, like what out of single-player games are you talking about? You're talking about just generally single-player games? Because yeah, that's not my wheelhouse, man. I'm not knowledgeable enough in general video game culture to be able to do any sort of decent tier list for that. We could do it again with. You know what? We could do it with. It's just soundtracks, right? So honestly, you guys could tell me what soundtracks are good, and then I could just play them and listen to them for the first time, Yeah, I can rank it like that, right? Because it's just music. It's not like I have to play a full game to find out. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of soundtracks, you got to put it into context, right? It's hard to. They don't carry the same weight just listening to it, you know, without any of the understanding of the gameplay or the story that's going along with it. I feel like a lot of that play. Yeah, I feel like just the general atmosphere of the game adds a lot to how much the soundtrack affects you. So I don't know. I don't know if that works. Let's see. The damn point is that it's hard. Luffy, Nami, Sanji. I was close. I was very close with Nami and Sanji. No, I had Zoro above Nami. So Nami's actually second. Thanks for the 10, man. Okay, I'm close. I was close. I had the top 4 correct. Just wrongly shuffled. I guess I overestimated Zoro there. Chopper and Usopp, yeah. Brooke, Robin, Frankie, Jinbei. Did I have Robin above Frankie or Frankie above Robin? I think I was in the right direction, I would say. But it's hard to get these 100% right. Thanks for the answer, man. And thanks for the weekly quizzes. Nerve and V-Maker, thank you for the 10. Is it fair to say that Oda fumbled the Shanks versus Mihawk thing? No, not at all. You know how much we talk about that? If Shanks was meant to be stronger, he should have been given a different weapon. If Mihawk, then he should have been given better portrayal. That is actually, you very concisely put exactly what the cause for so much I suppose community debate is, right? Just very concisely, like, if Mihawk is supposed to be stronger, then why is he not, why does he get so little just general hype, general portrayal feats whatsoever in the series? It's like he's just not talked about unless it's something like tangential, like, oh, Black Blade means this. Oh, Mihawk has one of those. That's cool, right? But then on the flip side, if Shanks gets so much hype, so much, it's like the story bends over to accommodate just his presence. Anytime he shows up, he has a huge, huge impact, right? Why then does he have a sword if Mihawk's supposed to be stronger, but then no one treats Mihawk that way, right? With the same level of, I don't know, whatever you want to say. Or a discussion, right, in story that's just not as much there for Mihawk. That's the... I don't think that's Oda fumbling it, though, necessarily. I think that's more so it just provides fodder for discussion, right? And I'm sure Oda has an answer in his head, and it's just going to come down to as we learn more in the story. We don't need to literally see them fight. I think it's just as we learn more, as we go further in the story, we'll get a better understanding of, hopefully, of what it would mean to be world's strongest swordsman, right? Versus whether Shanks is purely a swordsman, whether Shanks has some outside abilities that are not swordsmanship related, etc. Because for all we know, like, maybe once we hit a certain point in the story, Oda just really starts ramping up Mihawk's portrayal. And it's just like, oh yeah, Oda just didn't feel like doing anything with the character for X number of chapters. So now Mihawk's just suddenly going to be portrayed as, a lot more impressive than was ever suggested in Marineford or anything like that, right? That could easily happen. Oda could just flip a switch with Mihawk, right? He's just been holding back. That's entirely possible. Flip side, we could just learn that Shanks uses a sword, obviously, but he has other things that he sets aside the sword for, and other hockey abilities that we just are not yet meant to find out, which is why it would seem right now that all that Shanks has is a sword, when really there's more to him, right? There's two different routes that these things could go. Or, in fact, both things could happen, right? And then the debate just continues on for however long. Soge King, thanks for bringing a Yonko to your member for 3 months. Hey, Morji Poo, I waited 3 weeks to finally see you react to the opening. I forgot I have to do that. Do you think Oda will kill Kuma or transfer his consciousness to S-Bear? I hope he fucking kills Kuma. Like, if we see Kuma just in S-Bear, it's like, what was the point of all this? Oh, a evil friend is saying my B, Morj. I meant a One Piece soundtrack stream. I don't know what I thought you meant like games. I don't know why I thought you meant that. That would actually be fun. One Piece soundtrack stream. Yeah, let me write that down. One Piece soundtrack stream is a great idea. How many new OSTs have come about since like the time skip? Not really any, right? Have there been any prominent new OSTs that I need to know about? Otherwise, can it just be like the classics? You know, I know the classics. I just don't have. I'm sure there's some. If there are new songs, I'm sure there's some really good ones, but I just won't have the emotional attachment to them because I don't watch the anime nowadays. So it wouldn't be really a fair ranking for me. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Gunther, thanks for getting. Oh no, never mind. Gunther, thanks. Where was Logia Awakening mentioned in Egghead? I only remember Vegapunk saying he can't make green blood of Logia fruits. I think he also mentioned. Shit, didn't he? Did he not mention Awakening there? Unless I'm crazy, I thought he mentioned Awakening right at that point. Don't sleep when Shanks pull out his hockey domain expansion. I mean, people joke, but like, I really don't. Like, I've talked about stuff before, there's so many possibilities with hockey that are still open that are not unreasonable at all. Like, why is it not possible that you could do just a hockey blast like a Dragon Ball Z blast? Why is that not possible? Have you guys seen Galaxy Impact? That's not that far off from just we're getting to straight up Dragon Ball Z stuff, right? And that's Garp 50 years past his prime or whatever, right? This is Garp like a shadow of himself, and he's doing stuff like that. Why is that possible? But a hockey blast just can't be a thing. And people are like, oh, what about like a hockey Susanoo? That's basically this. It always drives me mad when people joke about that. I'm like, that is literally what Ashura is. That is what Ashura is. That's what Zoro does when he's doing Ashura. He's creating he's creating some sort of a form using hockey, right? He's not literally physically growing a new limb. It's hockey shit that he's creating and manifesting to create that basically that form. That's like half a step away from Susanoo. You're being very pedantic if you're like, no, there's a huge difference between that and Susanoo. No, we already have hockey Susanoo. That's what that is. It's the same fucking thing. It's just one step away, like half a step away. There's so many things. Like, yeah, hockey Rasengan. That's not a weird thing to think about. Again, look at Galaxy Impact. Like, there's so many possibilities with hockey that we're clearly just scraping the surface of. We only just learned that Conqueror's hockey can be used for attacks. We just learned that in the last, like the last 100 chapters, basically, you know? And we're not even scratching the surface yet of what, like, Roger and Garp could do in their prime. Vapor Babe says, Ashura being hockey is still headcanon? How is that? What are you talking? No, it's not. It's read chapter 1010. What the fuck? It's literally, it's very literally, very clearly a manifestation of Conqueror's hockey. There's nothing else it could be. It's explained. Oh, I don't even know what to say. Raffy Goat says, why are people assuming Shanks is Kamehameha when we've already seen him fight with a sword? I'm not saying he does. I'm just saying we don't know what all he can do. It might just be a sword. It might not. We don't know. Why don't we just let him, let's see him fight someone that he can't just one-shot like Kid. Let's just see him fight someone, and then we'll know. And then that's basically it. Like, you could say it the other way, like, why are people assuming that Shanks can only fight with a sword, right? It'd be like seeing Whitebeard back in, like, chapter 420 or something, clash with Shanks, and be like, okay, so Whitebeard can only use a spear. We don't know. Like, we haven't gotten the context yet, right? We haven't actually seen any of these characters do what they can do. Alright. Let's keep going. Is it time for... I'll let some more people flood in before we do the monster stream. Monsters, how many of you guys have read it, by the way? Remix King, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 11 months. I might have to ask you to do a One Piece soundtrack, by the way, tier list. After the manga of 2023, I decided to catch up to some of the manga we rank. I feel like almost all the fights after Shibuya were won through gimmick. All the fights after Shibuya were... Oh, you're saying... Oh, you read through Jujutsu Kaisen? All the fights after Shibuya... I haven't read anything after Shibuya except that one big fight, so I don't know. I don't know if they're won by gimmick or won by what. I got no take on Jujutsu Kaisen stuff. I'm not gonna spoil anybody on Jujutsu Kaisen stuff. We'll just find out. Shonen Empire says, I don't think Oda knows what a swordsman is. It's the problem is that it's very important, right? It's very, very important because it goes to Zoro's story, right? So it can't be just something that can be swept under the rug. So it'd be fine if it was something like, I don't know, like who the best sniper is or who the best person with a gun is or something like that. Gunman, whatever it might be. That's fine. Like, you never need to define that. You can have vague things like, oh, this character casually uses a gun, or this character doesn't use a gun, but they use, yeah, like a slingshot or something, right? Like, you can have variations with things like that, and it doesn't really matter. The second most important character in the entire series, his story is dependent on a very, very clear definition of what being the world's strongest swordsman means, right? That's his entire character storyline, right? It would be almost like, well, you could be the king of the pirates, but the like if it was loose as to what being pirate king meant or king of the pirates meant, right? That's essentially the same thing as if Oda was being loose with what the word swordsman means, you know? You need a very tight definition at the end of the day. So we just gotta wait. Caleb H says you should react to the Lucia scene. No, we're not getting into a territory where I have to start reacting to a bunch of stuff. Alright? This is just monsters. Because monsters is the perfect gray area. I think I've explained this before many a time when it comes to reactions. There's this gray area. I don't like reacting to things that I will actually enjoy, that I'm very interested in. Sorry. Not that I'll actually enjoy it. Things that I'm genuinely very, very interested in. I don't want to react to those because for me that's basically something that I would rather just be able to enjoy on my own time, right? Like sitting down at my leisure, put it on the TV, or if I'm just lounging in bed or something like that, that's when I want to watch those type of things, okay? But at the same time, I don't want to react to things that I know I'll dislike because it's like, what's the fun of that? That's not fun for you guys, that's not fun for me, that's not fun for anyone, right? So there's this gray area where there's things that I feel like I will enjoy, but I also don't care about too much, or I also genuinely kind of already know what I'm getting into. Like, something that I probably wouldn't take the time to watch on my own time, but I'm interested enough that I'd watch it with you guys. That's the perfect gray area for reactions. Monsters falls under that category. I've read the one-shot Monsters. I've read all of Oda's previous one-shots. A lot of them are good. I think I've talked about this before. My favorite is either Monsters or the it's like I forget. It's like God's Gift to Man or something like that, or the God's Diary or something. Oda one-shot God Diary. This is Oda's peak comedy. God's Gift for the Future. Yeah. If you want to read peak Oda comedy, read the one-shot God's Gift to the Future. It's funny as fuck. I don't know if it still holds up. I read it years ago, but I thought it was really fucking funny when I read it. That and Monsters. I thought those were the two best of his one-shots from the volume that came out. There were two early versions of One Piece, two Romance Dawn 1.0, Romance Dawn 2.0, before the Romance Dawn that we actually got. There was a Gunslinger one that I thought was okay. There was one that I thought was bad. It was like about a monk or something like that. Or like a monk. I thought that was terrible. But Monsters, I think, was the best one out of that. Don't expect it to be phenomenal, but again, it's basically par for the course for a nice little one-shot that shows hints of Oda's storytelling and the type of stuff that he kind of likes down the line. Dimian Wright, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 5 months. Give Mihawk Akainu's feats at Marineford and people would be wanking him even more. Yeah. But that's obvious, right? Like, yeah, they would be. What's that supposed to mean? If Mihawk had feats, of course, like people would wank him more. Oh, actually, though, if you give Mihawk Akainu's feats at Marineford, every single one of his feats, they would hype him a lot more. However, they would ultimately say that Shanks is stronger, because what was the last thing that Akainu did at Marineford? Who remembers the last thing that happened with Akainu at Marineford? Anyone? What's the last thing that happened? shift the mic a little closer if the audio's a little low. I could also raise it a bit here. Let me do that. Oh shit, it's already pretty high. Let me raise it a bit more. Yami says he faced off against Whitebeard's fleet. Nope. Nope. What's the last thing that happened with Akainu? Very last thing. No, not getting packed by Sickbeard. Very, very last thing. Final moment for Akainu. Yes. Umair Ula, congratulations. That is the last thing that he did. That is the last thing that happened with Akainu. So, if you give Mihawk all of Akainu's feats in Marineford, it would basically be a ton of impressive shit. And then the last thing that's happening with him is being stopped by Shanks. So, I feel like, and it doesn't matter that, like, people are going to jump in with, like, no, but technically, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying, I don't want to get into the debate of who or what between Shanks and Akainu. I'm just saying what people would generally say. What would the general populace say, right? Even if Mihawk did everything Akainu did at Marineford, if he then got stopped by Shanks at the very, very end of it, right? Then it's over. Everyone would just be like, okay, so Shanks is stronger, right? That's what we determined from this whole thing. That would basically be what it is. Cosmic Cookie says Shanks fans use that to say Shanks greater than Akainu. Yeah, and I'm not trying to get into the whole Shanks Akainu thing. I'm just saying that if you asked most people, if you look at most reactions, etc. to that scene, the general populace views that as Shanks basically, basically dad-dicking Akainu, right? So that would be, you swap Mihawk in there, it would be a bad look for Mihawk. It would essentially erase everything that Mihawk did before, because the ultimate question Mihawk fans and Shanks fans have is who's stronger, Shanks, Mihawk. That's all they really care about at the end of the day. And if you give them one interaction where it's basically Mihawk being stopped by Shanks, it would not be a good look for Mihawk. So, yeah, blessing and a curse if Mihawk got Akainu's feats at Marineford. Umirula says, I think they meant his feats against Whitebeard parts and Whitebeard. Yeah, of course. Like, I'm just being, like, I'm being technical with it. Like, oh, you want all of, it's one of those, monkey's paws things, right? Oh, you think, be careful what you wish for. You want Mihawk to get all of Akainu's feats at Marineford? You sure? You want all of that? You know that scene in Aladdin where it's at the very end and Aladdin's like, he gets Jafar to wish for all the powers of a genie. So he wishes for all the powers of a genie, and so he gets, you know, all this omnipotent ability, right? And then he's like, but you know what that comes with? It comes with this lamp. So there's a catch, and the catch is worse than the benefits. That would be kind of that sort of situation with Mihawk getting Akainu's feats. Pat Kelly says, sup, Morj, react to anime opening first. Do I have to react to the anime All right. I'll react to the anime opening before we get to the actual monsters reaction. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Do you think the stream... Will I get in trouble for this, though? I don't know if I get in trouble. Let me see if I get in trouble. Do I get in trouble? What is it, opening 22? What are we on? 20... What opening are we on? One Piece opening 26. Wow. All right. Opening 26 came out 2 weeks ago. Cool. I see two versions though. I see this version and then this version. What am I supposed to click? And one's 2 minutes and one's 1 minute 30 seconds. I would like to click on this one because it seems shorter and therefore I would have to watch less. Right? Which one do I click on? Also, I'm going to have to rearrange the stream format a little bit just so that I don't get banned for this. Yusuf says, L Morj folded under pressure. That's a good point. Do I really want to watch? I mean, I'll watch it. Like, we're just trying to let a few more people come in before we start the actual main event. Second one? Alright. And it's shorter, so that's a win-win. Alright, let me rearrange some things. So I'm going to make myself huge. And then, what are we doing? Let's make this really small. Alright, this should work. And then, should I mirror it? Nah, it's not worth it. Alright, we'll just make it really small. We'll make it really small. Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll watch. Let's hope nothing happens. Is this small enough? Let's make it even smaller. Okay. Just mirror it. I don't think mirroring it helps. I think the size thing is better, personally. Because I've mirrored it before, and it's not... I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt. How do I mirror it again? I always forget. Okay. Let's flip it. And for good measure, we're also going to flip it upside down. All right, there we go. All right. If they catch me after this, then, you know, they just got a really, really good system. You just you tip your hat to them and be like, wow, you guys can catch anything. All right. This song is really good. That opening is really cool. That was really, really good. That was awesome. That was I feel like I feel like that's probably artistically, or at least in terms of creative direction, that might have been the best opening ever. Am I crazy? That was really, really cool. I feel like sound, okay, music wise, I like the opening, whatever you call it, intro, outro. I thought that, I feel like they could have ran with that more throughout the song, but that was, in my opinion, the highlights music wise. I feel like they could have utilized that more throughout the actual song, but yeah, artistically it was really, really good. That was crazy. There were some moments that there were a lot of really good moments there, and the way they cut between so many characters while having a common through line between each of them, I thought, I don't know, that was really cool. I'm happy I watched that. I'm happy you guys made me watch that. I had seen on Twitter, I already knew it was gonna be very good because on Twitter I'd seen a little GIF of, you know, the moment where Luffy's outfits swap and rotate, and he's just cycling through all the outfits as the lights change. I'd seen that, so I knew that creatively it would be really good. But the entire thing was, that same level of energy and, um, just artistic, just artistic, whatever you want to call it, innovation. I don't think I'd seen an opening that tried to go for something like that, at least a One Piece opening. I don't know how people feel in terms of ranking One Piece openings and stuff. I don't think I ever want to do something like that. But off the top of my head, I don't think that there's ever been an anime opening I can think of, like a One Piece opening that I can think of that was as out there as that, as outside the box as that. That's a special one for sure. Eric says, "Look at the sweet boy smile." I mean, I've said this before. If stuff's good, I like it. I will always give props to it. I just don't ever feel like I would never have just sat down to watch, a random One Piece music video just for the sake of it. But I'm happy I watched it. I can still respect how good it was. And I've always said, I believe you guys that it's very, very good. I just don't feel like watching it. But glad I did. Marcel Bean says, "Gonna tell my friends and family that you liked it." There was that other One Piece episode. Was it 10-15? Whatever episode it was where they end up on the roof and then you get the POV from behind Luffy's hat. I really didn't want to watch a full One Piece episode. I think I ended up just watching the half of the episode that was really, really good. And I thought that was phenomenal, So there's definitely... Again, I believe you guys when you push stuff to make me watch it. It's just I usually don't feel like watching it on my own time. It's just the way it is. Umir Ula, thanks for the 5. Thoughts on Akainu being called the strongest Marine ever via databook? I don't think he's the strongest Marine ever, unless he's unlocked Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Which databook is this? What's the exact quote? That just seems kind of ridiculous, man. I mean, you can do a direct comparison to, like, him and Garp, and it's just like Garp... Like, it just seems absurd to think that Garp in his prime wouldn't absolutely mop the floor with Akainu. Because... Like, look at what Garp was doing against Aokiji and the entire Blackbeard pirate crew while holding back, right? Garp did not break out most of his Advanced Conqueror. He didn't... He had the kid gloves on versus Aokiji, not using any of his Galaxy Impact type shit on Aokiji. And fighting him while handicapped, while fighting the entire Blackbeard pirates, 50 years past his prime. You're telling me that Akainu is stronger than Garp in his prime? Because Akainu and Aokiji are dead even, right? They fought for 10 days straight dead even. There's no way that Akainu's close to prime Garp unless he's gotten a big power-up, right? So if he's gotten a power-up, unlocked Advanced Conqueror's Haki, as so many other characters have in recent times, then I could see him passing up Garp, right? Because Akainu obviously is crazy strong, able to hold his own against a Yonko like Whitebeard, and do very well. It's just, I can't imagine him being above someone like prime Garp without getting that Advanced Conqueror's Haki, right? If you add Advanced Conqueror's Haki to the level that Akainu's already at, then you've got a crazy monster, right? But as it is, from what we know, it's just that him and Aokiji are basically dead even, like 100 to 99.8 if you were to compare their capabilities, right? So if you're saying Akainu's the strongest Marine ever, then that would make Aokiji the second strongest Marine ever, which I think we all know is not the case, as we saw from the Hachinosu raid. It would be ridiculous to think that Aokiji could do anything to Prime Garp. Also, do you now think Kizaru is more well-written than Kuzan, maybe after Egghead? I think we need more time with Kizaru. I think Kizaru and Aokiji are both in similar story arcs, like character arcs. Kizaru's is going to be shorter and probably resolved by the end of Egghead, whereas Aokiji is something... much longer and more developed because he's a more important character, and we're kind of just getting the middle part of it at this moment in time, I think. So it's hard to tell. It's harder to tell where Aokiji is going to go. Eyes96 says, "Shit, I'm late. What did I miss?" Nah, just the reaction to opening 26, which I thought was the best One Piece opening. Like, purely from... If I take my feelings about... Like, obviously, I'm going to have a bias towards the openings I watched when I was binging the anime. Decades ago now? What was it? Like, not decades. When I was in middle school, I'm going to have my nostalgic bias towards that stuff. But if I'm just sitting back, I would probably say that the new opening is the best directed one that I've ever seen. Cosmic Cookie says Garp wasn't holding back either. Oh, really? Wait, can somebody show me the panel of Garp using Galaxy Impact on Aokiji? Would love to see that panel. Would love to see a panel of him using Conqueror's Haki on Aokiji. I don't think Garp solos the current admirals. That's kind of, I think that's extreme. But yeah, Prime Garp would embarrass Akainu. Like Prime Garp scales to like Prime Whitebeard, Prime Roger, close to at the very least, and we saw how much difficulty Akainu had with half dead Whitebeard, right? If you think Akainu got the better of Whitebeard, if you think Whitebeard got the better, it doesn't really matter. We can tell that in his prime, it wouldn't be close. Like Whitebeard would be a lot stronger than Akainu. That being said, Akainu could have gotten a power up, right? If Akainu got Advanced Conqueror's Haki, then it's a totally different discussion. Then we might be talking about the strongest Marine of all time. Because if you've got a character that can fight at that level that he did at Marine Ford without even Advanced Conqueror's Haki, that if you give him Advanced Conqueror's Haki, then you've got, then you've got an argument, for sure. Teddy, thanks for the 5. I'm so happy you enjoyed the opening. I did. That's one I'll probably rewatch again on my own at some point. It's just a really cool opening. We were telling you to lower the volume though. Yeah, it's whatever. Also, Prime Garp is embarrassing Prime Akainu in my opinion. Yeah, I definitely agree. Unless again, there's something more to Akainu that we have yet to see. That if he's picked up something, some new ability, whatever. Yeah, I don't really get the argument that, like, I see people randomly be like, oh, Aokiji was holding back against Garp. It's like, there's no evidence for that, because at the end of the battle, we see Aokiji, like, has put a stake through Garp's heart, right? So, I don't really know what, like, he jumped him with the entire Blackbeard pirates, and he was clearly doing, a lot of damage by the end of it, right? Like, it ended with Garp. Like, what are you saying? Like, was he trying to let Garp get away? Because he didn't let Garp get away. Was he trying not to injure Garp? Because, like, Garp has got a stake through his heart. I don't really know where the argument that Aokiji held back comes from. You could argue that Aokiji didn't use Awakening, which is true, but Garp didn't use Advanced Conqueror's Haki, which is an even bigger deal. I also don't really know how much Aokiji's Awakening would help against Garp, because Aokiji can't freeze Garp. We literally saw that in their first interaction. That's why Aokiji didn't try it again. Right? They didn't, like, we saw right away that Aokiji's ice can't hold Garp. It can't hold Haki, at least Garp's Haki. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Awakening's much more powerful ice or something. We don't really know what a Logia Awakening is, but the way I see it, I don't think that there's that much of an argument that Aokiji was the one holding back more than Garp was. If anything, Garp outright makes clear from the beginning of their fight that he just wants Aokiji to come back to the Marines. Like, if you actually look at what they're both saying, what characters' intents are, what abilities they choose to use, I feel like Garp probably pulled his punches a lot more. I mean, we literally know he pulled his punches because he did not use any Advanced Conqueror's Haki on his disciple. And Garp's goal was literally like, get the fuck back on our ship and come with us to the Marines. He wasn't like trying to fight to kill Aokiji. Neither of them were fighting to kill each other, but in that case, they're both holding back about the same amount. And I think that Aokiji clearly needed a lot of help to get the job done, whereas I don't know if there was anything that implied that Garp wouldn't have been able to take care of Aokiji on his own. Like, it was clear that Oda had a lot of characters handicap Garp to make it more doable for them to take him down. John 678 says Garp is slow and old now. See, I don't understand why people say that, because it's like they didn't read the fight. Garp was too fast. He was literally too fast for Aokiji to follow. He was literally faster than Aokiji's eyes could follow. Aokiji got blitzed by a Garp that wasn't even paying attention to him. He was just getting past Aokiji, like brushing him aside, so that he could get to Vala Pizarro to save his young cadets, right? Garp was very, very clearly a lot faster than Aokiji. I don't think that Aokiji wasn't faking anything there. You can see the expression on his face. Like, that's not, it's very, very apparent that Garp is still the fastest character on that island. K-Mai says, Morj, did you catch the 2 Vivi scenes? I'd seen the Vivi paw thing before because people had posted that on Twitter. I don't know how much stock I put into that because the anime has done random things that turn out to be wrong in the future. But maybe they got a bit of a tip or something. Who knows? Eyes96, thanks for the 5. Don't know if anyone else has brought it up, but 4Kids dub opening is supreme. I'm probably not gonna watch that. Braga says the only time Morj laughed the entire reaction was when he saw a kid. That's hate. What am I supposed to do, man? It was a beautiful work of art, and then they threw in a gag character. What am I supposed to do? It's just the way it is. Christopher Ingram says faulty reasoning, in my opinion. I don't know. Like, we can go through the entire fight. I would love to see an argument for Aokiji over Garp, because I just don't get it, because it's Aokiji. Oda wrote it so that it's Aokiji plus an entire Yonko crew. Like, an entire... I don't even... There's no real way to... You can't even over-exaggerate this. There's no hyper... It's well, I guess the Yonko crew is obviously missing a couple members. It's missing a couple members, right? But for the most part, you've got the better part of a Yonko crew backing up Aokiji. And Garp's just by himself. And Garp's not using Advanced Conqueror's Haki on his disciple. And Garp makes it pretty clear from the start he's not, like, fighting to kill Aokiji or anything. We know that Aokiji was willing to put a stake through Garp once he got the opportunity. I just don't really get what the argument is. Like, we saw that Garp is faster than Aokiji can follow, right? Is there any debate about that? That was established, that Garp can get past him at any point. I don't know what to say. It was literally a one... Like, I just don't believe... I feel like if it was any other character in that... I just don't understand why people are arguing in favor of Aokiji when it's just a giant team fight against one guy. I don't think I've ever seen that argument made when it's like, at the very least, it seems two characters are going back and forth, but at the same time, one character very clearly needs an entire, backup squad at the same time just to put down his opponent. I've never seen that argument made at any other point for any other characters in the story. Umair Ula says, Morj, you put Aokiji above Garp in your top 30. What does this mean? It means I was wrong. Like, I think people are to me, I came into the fight open-minded, because I don't know who's stronger between those. I had Aokiji slightly above Garp when I did the top 30. So if you want to say I have a bias, it was a bias towards Aokiji, because that was just what made more sense to me. I've read through that fight. We even went through the whole fight on this stream. Not this stream, but on stream. And we went through panel for panel, and I was just like, where's the... I can't feasibly make an argument for Aokiji, because there's just nothing there. There's no moment in the fight that he looks better than Garp. There are many moments in the fight where Garp looks better than him. And it's, like, at the end of the day, Aokiji had, half a Yonko crew fighting with him. Garp was the one that was handicapped. I just find it surprising that, like, for so many other characters, if they're fighting with a clear handicap, like, oh, they've been stabbed through the back by, like, a really strong character, and they're fighting injured, then people will rush in flocks and droves to be like, see, this guy was handicapped, that's why he won, right? That's the reason people, like, talk about Kaido versus Luffy, right? Like, Kaido handicapped, Kaido took so many injuries. Don't understand why people just ignore that for Garp when, like, to me, if you just look at intent, Oda went really, really hard on making it very clear that Garp was the one severely disadvantaged, and that in every interaction, Garp was still getting the better of Aokiji till he was just overwhelmed. Eric says they're both okay fighters, nothing crazy. Sometimes I don't even know what you're talking about. They're both top tier fighters, or like close to. Yeah, I put up Aokiji above Blackbeard because that's the portrayal that we've gotten so far. Unless Blackbeard has another fruit. Because, like, Blackbeard's bumming around, like, barely handling Trafalgar Law, who himself is nowhere close to a top tier, right? If you just look at the Aokiji-Blackbeard interaction in the bar, I think it's fairly clear that the portrayal is Aokiji above Blackbeard at the moment. At the very least, until... Blackbeard doesn't even think he can take Rayleigh at this point in time. Like, old-ass Rayleigh. I think at the very least... until Blackbeard, unless Blackbeard reveals that he has a third fruit that he's just not using for the time being, or until Blackbeard picks up a third fruit, I don't think he's beating Aokiji. I think it'd be very close, but I don't think that's the case. Fodder for Hire says, people forgetting Kuzan warns the crew and Hachinosu to be very careful of him. Kuzan needed the crew. We can go through the fight again. Like, I'm open to... It's just a tired exercise because we've done this once already. Kelvin says, is Yamato stronger than Aokiji and Garp? No, of course not. We can do this again. Like, I'm just going based on what I read. I came into the fight thinking that Aokiji's above Garp. But I'm always ready to change my opinions. For most things. That are, like, power scaling related. Varp TM, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for a month. Kuzan or Big Mom, Morj? Based on what we saw, I got Big Mom. Based on what we saw, I got Big Mom, yeah. Because I just don't see, like, I think the kicker panel for me is this, right? I don't see an argument for Aokiji above a lot of these characters because, let me just show you guys. So, first thing Aokiji attempts to do, right? Oh, wait, let me fix the settings. Hold on. Alright. What all did I do to this? Flip this. Oh, wait, this is supposed to be here. Okay. Alright, let's just take this from the top. Right, let's just take this from the top before we watch monsters. So, John678, thanks for the 5. Oda needed to show Garp greater than Kuzan because this is probably the last feat Garp's gonna get. I'll be waiting for us Kuzan bandwagon in the final war. I mean, I think this is as strong as Aokiji is. Like, obviously Admiral, obviously would give anyone in the story a run for their money, I think. But Garp's a literal legend. Like, he's a living legend, and I think that's certain things just, there's a bit of a difference in how they're going to be portrayed, right? So, I mean, for me, the reason I've got Aokiji above Big Mom is the same reason Garp just breaks out with Haki. Aokiji's, like, I don't really know what Aokiji's going to do. If he can't freeze Garp, why is he going to be able to freeze Big Mom? I just don't know why he would be able to. Yeah. Yeah, so we can go through the rest of the fight, but that's, like, to start with, you know? So, yeah, so from the top, Aokiji's not letting them escape. Right? It's not letting them escape. Yada, yada, yada. Garp's goal is just to get Aokiji back to the Navy, so we know that Garp's not fighting to kill. This is not bloodlusted Garp, like, was going to go after Akainu or anything, so we understand his intent very, very well. Come back to the Navy. It's very straightforward, right? You can't really argue that Garp's going all out because it's established that he's not. For him, he's just teaching his disciple a lesson. Aokiji freezes him. Garp breaks out with Haki. I assume that Big Mom, very high level advanced conquers Haki user. Don't really know what Aokiji would do against her that would work against her that wouldn't work against Garp. We know Garp's faster than Aokiji. Too fast here. We get the little surprised reaction sign. This is a universal sign in manga for being surprised. Aokiji is essentially lucky that Garp did not use any sort of real move here. He just does a throw. But, you know, let's just keep reading. Like, to me, this is looking good for Garp. Is there anyone want to show me anything? Like, we're going to take this beat by beat. Is there anything here? He does use Advanced Conqueror's Haki. He does use Advanced Conqueror's Haki. That's my mistake. It does not use Galaxy Impact. So he does a throw, not a real big finisher move, right? Does anyone want to show anything to me, like, before we move on, from this chapter? Is there anything that suggests that Aokiji is above Garp so far? yeah, maybe it's Advanced Conquerors, maybe it's not. It's clearly a strong attack, right? There's lightning and everything, clearly a strong attack. So I don't want to underplay that, right? So, and I don't think you can just break out of Aokiji's Ice with just regular. Like, let's assume that there's Advanced Conquerors going on here, all right? Oda doesn't explain certain things, but let's assume. Either way, I just don't think that Aokiji's Ice, it seems like it can hold Garp. I think clearly Garp being faster than Aokiji, it happens again later in the fight. We'll get to that. But so far, Garp just seems faster than Aokiji. This is a surprise sign. This isn't Aokiji throwing. This is just the universal manga reaction symbol for when a character is surprised. Is there anything so far that suggests that Aokiji is above Garp? Anything so far? If not, then we're going to move on. All right, ready? Wavering? Okay, that's a good point. Wavering is a sign of weakness. So, maybe, if Aokiji was more prepared, he would not be caught by this. That's a great point. That's a very, very good point. So we'll say that's number one. That's the number one. That's the first defense for Aokiji. First defense for Aokiji. So on both ends, we know for a fact that neither of them are all in on their fight. On this fight so far, Aokiji is wavering in his intentions, his spirit, whatever you want to say. Garp is obviously not actually bloodlusted or whatever you want to say the term is. He's just like, come back to the Navy, right? This isn't like an actual fight to kill sort of thing for him. But Garp is more motivated and more decisive in this moment than Aokiji is. So Garp's got that going for him. So I think at worst you can say, you can't really say Aokiji's above Garp from this chapter based on anything that's happened, right? There's nothing that really puts Aokiji above Garp, but you got a good defense as to why Garp got the better of him in this interaction, right? Because Garp does get the better of him in this interaction. Garp breaks out. Garp throws him down to the ocean floor, we can assume. But you got this excuse for Aokiji, which is that Aokiji's a little bit uncertain right now, right? So far, advantage Garp, but you got an excuse for Aokiji. So at best you can say you can't really tell, right? As you can't really make an argument that Garp's below Aokiji off of this, but you can make the argument that it's inconclusive, right? So I'll take inconclusive so far. Then moving on to the next two chapters of this fight. Yeah, I established that Garp is holding back because, as Garp says, he's just trying to get Aokiji back to the Navy. He's not fighting to kill. At the same time, Aokiji, he's wavering, whatever you want to say, is what's implied, right? So, first conclusions, right? This is just objective reading. Again, I had Aokiji above Garp before these chapters. I came in with an open mind. I came out of it thinking Garp's at least equal or looking better, right? First conclusions, Garp got the better of him that interaction. Garp is holding back. However, Aokiji is also not maybe giving it his all. He seems to be wavering, as is said. All right, on to the next stuff. Garp is having to deal with the entire Blackbeard pirates at this moment in time. Not the entire, but a good 60%, 70, 50%, something like that. He's taking out all of them. Like, this is just, to me, it's very difficult to make the argument for Aokiji. He comes up very, like, he's back, but Garp's been fighting everybody else at the same time, right? Aokiji comes back clearly fairly injured. If I'm reading it as two blank characters, it definitely feels like this character is being portrayed as more impressive so far, because Garp's handling everybody else upstairs while Aokiji's getting up from one attack from downstairs, right? And then the author does something before he has these characters have their rematch, which is he severely handicaps one of them, right? I mean, like, I don't even know what you can say about this. It's just, after this happened, I was like, okay, if Aokiji can't easily wipe the floor with Garp after this, then I just don't understand how you can make an argument for Aokiji. Because for me, in any other situation, right, if it was any other character, you would just be like, fuck, the author clearly handicapped one of the characters severely, and then not the other character, and then they're still going even, so you'd assume the handicapped character is, at normal strength, stronger than character B, right? I just don't understand exactly what the argument for Aokiji would be here. Because as soon as Oda did this and then still had them going toe to toe, like it's just, to me it's over. Like Garp's fighting with a hole in his stomach, right? If this happened and then Aokiji took him down, I'd be like, okay, so maybe they're supposed to be even. But Garp got stabbed and then they're just fighting evenly. Like I don't really get what the. Can someone explain what the argument for Aokiji is at this point? Bragodier says old man text, Aokiji could go 9.5 more days. But how do you know that? Because, like, one, like, Garp's the one that's actually tanking through all of this damage and fighting everybody at the same time. If you look at Aokiji after one move, which isn't really, like, Garp's strongest move or anything, Aokiji looks somewhat fucked up. I feel like you gotta take out your assumption, because I also assumed from the beginning, like I used to have Aokiji over Garp because I was like, yeah, I also gave him the old man text. I was like, I assume that he can't. But then the reality is that Garp's the one showing much more significant durability over the course of this fight. Like they're still going even when Garp's health bar is probably at like 50% now. You know what I mean? Not to mention Garp's not using Advanced Conqueror's Haki, dude. Like he's not using Galaxy Impact. Imagine if instead of this little thing, Garp is using Galaxy Impact. You know? Could Aokiji take a Galaxy Impact? Could he take like 5 Galaxy Impacts? Could he take 4? Could he handle Garp just like... What if Garp threw him to the bottom of the ocean, right? Garp just didn't follow up because he had to handle the other Blackbeard pirates. What if Garp had chosen to follow up? To me, it's like Oda's going way over... Like he's bending over backwards to make sure that Garp's the one that's really handicapped. Again, like, I had the old man tax assumption, too, before this fight, but to me, it's just, like, the author intent seems to be that this dude needs to be severely handicapped in order for this dude to keep up. So they clash, even clash, right? Again, it's even now that Garp is handicapped, and after Garp's been handling other Blackbeard pirates while Aokiji got time to recover. So again, I just don't see an argument for... Like, Aokiji hasn't gotten the better of Garp yet so far. I don't see where the argument is. One's handicapped, one's not. One's having to handle a lot more, the other one's getting help. And then now, right after this, it's just like... Garp's injured. He's clutching his stomach. Dude's severely handicapped again. And then Aokiji is concerned, right? So he's concerned. So you could say that he's wavering there or whatever. But at the same time, like, I just don't know how I can look at this panel and be like, yeah, to me it's just like, it seems like Garp's being written to be faster than Aokiji. I don't really know how you can look at this panel and be like, yeah, this dude is stronger than this dude. It just doesn't seem that way to me. That just doesn't seem like what Oda's suggesting. To me, it looks more like this dude is being handicapped to hell and being given a shit ton of responsibilities and having to, like actively fight so many other characters while looking out for his helpless subordinates. And then Aokiji still can't put him down. And he still can't even really stop him from doing that, to be honest. Like, Aokiji is basically a distraction for Garp right now because he's not his main focus. Garp right now needs to get to Valo Pizarro. I don't know, dude. Like, it's not like Garp hit Aokiji with this Galaxy Divide move. He just moved Aokiji out of the way so that then he could do this to Valo Pizarro. I just really don't see the argument for Aokiji here. And then after doing all that, like, Oda could have just shown us a panel of, you know, Aokiji having defeated Garp, but instead we get a panel of the entire Blackbeard pirates having surrounded Garp, and now Garp's defeated, right? If it was just like, if Oda cut away and it's like, okay, Aokiji finally got the better of Garp, that's one thing. But this is like, alright, so if the entire island gets together on one dude who's already handicapped, that's the end of Garp, pretty much. I just don't... There's not a single panel that you can point to in this entire 3-chapter fight that to me suggests Aokiji over Garp. So that's why I came to the conclusion that, yeah, like, if you let them just both go at it, and Garp was just actually using his full speed on Aokiji, if he was actually just using Galaxy Impact, Galaxy Divide, and just going ham on Aokiji, I don't know what Aokiji would do. Aokiji can't freeze Garp. We already saw that from the first chapter. He can kind of, like, he can punch with his Ice Glove, but I just don't really get it. I don't know. Alright. So to me, that's my like. There's just not. I can't make an argument in good faith that Aokiji could beat Garp because there's just not like everything from this just seems to suggest the opposite. Like, it just there's nothing to base it off of. So for me, it would just be like if I just chose to go with my own bias, which was just like, yeah, previously I thought Aokiji's a bit stronger than Garp. If I just choose to maintain that without looking at the information the author is giving us, I think that would be incorrect. So I'm just rolling with this. At the end of the day, I just think that the legends are portrayed in a slightly different light. I don't think Aokiji's on par with Garp right now. Akainu's the one that I think that if Akainu got Advanced Conqueror's Haki as a power-up, then I think that that would put him on par, or maybe even above Garp, or something like that, like Prime Garp. But as it is right now, if Akainu's full strength is basically like Aokiji's full strength, because they tied essentially in battle, but like 0.1% stronger, then I don't think Akainu's that close either. Alright guys, good stuff. Yeah, that's all I got really. To me, I feel like I looked at that. I was looking at that while I was reading it the first time around. I was trying to see what arguments there were for Aokiji above Garp. It just, every chapter that came out of that fight, I was like, it's looking the other way around. Reading it again, nothing has really changed for me. Sleep Hut says, hi, Brago. Good to see Brago in stream. I haven't seen him in a minute. Brago says, Aokiji also let everyone else get away. He didn't attack anyone else, even though he's an AoE merchant. I don't think Garp can spam Galaxy Impact. But that's not true, dude, because, like, the fight began... The only reason the fight even began was because Aokiji froze Hibari. That was where the whole thing... That's how the whole thing got started. I don't think you could argue that Aokiji wasn't, like... where are we at? Like, the fight literally began because of this. Aokiji wasn't trying to let them get away. I don't know what... I don't know what... I don't think you can just say that, you know? I think that... Because he didn't have to do this at all. I don't think anyone even expected Aokiji was going to be showing up here, necessarily. He showed up, he froze her, and then that's why the fight started. Yeah, I don't really know. Again, like, I think to make the argument for Aokiji, you have to make, like, too many assumptions to me. Not Hibari, whoever the fuck this girl is, she got frozen. Right, you have to make too many things that to me cross over into headcanon. Which is like, Aokiji chose to come up at the last second to stop them from... Like, if Aokiji didn't stop them right here, if he just pretends that he was sleeping in or, like, whatever, then they get away right here. The whole thing's over, right? He is the whole reason that they weren't able to cleanly get away. So, to me, it's just too much headcanon to say no, but secretly he was trying to get them away, because he's the only reason they didn't get away is because he stopped them right here. Otherwise, they're done. So that's too much for me. I don't know. I just need something more concrete. If we get some more context or something down the line, I'd shuffle it around. I don't think Garp can spam Galaxy Impact, but he did it again. He did Galaxy Divide against Pizarro, you know, and that was after Garp had already been stabbed severely. I don't think, like, we know Garp could have done Galaxy Divide on Kuzan, but he just pushed Kuzan aside and then went after Pizarro. So I don't think Garp was even treating him like somebody that he had. Like, I think we know for a fact Garp was pulling his punches, right? He did not use Galaxy Impact. He didn't use Galaxy Divide. Flip side, Aokiji, as far as we know, can't do large-scale Conqueror's Haki attacks like that. As far as we know, he doesn't even have something like that. Even if he has Awakening, which he probably does, can Aokiji freeze Garp, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe his Awakening's way stronger ice that can't be broken out of, but we don't really know enough about Awakening. Maybe once we see Aokiji's Awakening, we could get a better idea. I don't know. Samuel Hart says, so would Garp have won without Stab protecting Kobe? I personally feel, to me, that Oda had to put in a lot more effort to try and make it believable that Garp would lose. I felt as though Oda was trying to do a lot to be like, yeah, we really have to stack the deck against Garp in order for him to go down here. Because why not just have Garp lose to Aokiji then, if you're going to do it that way, you know? To me, it just suggests that Oda considers Garp to be a stronger character because that's why all the handicapping was necessary. If Garp's not considered to be the stronger character at this point, then you would just have Aokiji take him out, right? Braga says, I think we overrated Advanced Conquerors a bit. I mean, but like one move of it, right? Like, let's say this is Advanced Conquerors, right? One move of it, and like one move in, and Aokiji, it takes him a while to get back, and he doesn't look so good, right? And this isn't like Galaxy Impact or Galaxy Divide. That's just a throw. Like, Garp just threw him down. I just don't know. I just don't know what... At the very worst, I could say that maybe they're supposed to be about equal. And then Oda had Garp nerfed a lot so that Aokiji could win. But I just don't know where I would make an argument that, based on anything that we saw, I would have to pull up like a lot of headcanon to make an argument out of everything that we were shown, that despite all this, Aokiji's still supposed to be stronger than Garp right now. I just don't... There's nothing here for me, basically. Like, I just gotta go with what it looks like based on what the author seems to be portraying. I don't know. But we're going in circles on this. Any final comments? We gotta watch Monsters at some point. Now, Kizaru wasn't taken out by that. He was clearly very affected, though. MGX Heat says, when you watching Monsters? Dude, I fucking hate the Viz translations. I fucking hate... They're so bad, it's crazy. It's disgusting, honestly. Would I get, like... If I spoke up more about... Like, if I did a video just talking about how bad the Viz translations are and how it's actually ruining the series for the poor souls that exclusively read Viz... Would that, like, get me flagged by... Like, do I get in trouble over that? Because I would really love to do that. Like, what the fuck is this? Are you guys reading this? Who's reading this line? Has anyone read this line? This is a real line that the translator for Viz, Stephen Paul, thought is... does he think it's a dramatic line? Does he think that this is a word that's used in English by anyone in existence? What does he think? Like, what's going through his head when he writes this? Buga says ignores Dono. What did I miss? Hold on, let me see. Let me catch whatever super I missed. Give me a second, sorry. I don't know, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to see. Because you can't buy One Piece volumes. You just can't physically own them. There's no point. You're just reading gibberish. I would love to be able to own One Piece volumes and just be able to sit down and actually read a book of One Piece stuff, but it's not... I don't know, man. Tala, thanks for the donation. Nami feels like a background character post time skip, not gonna lie. So funnily enough, Timothy McQueen at the very beginning of the stream revealed that Nami has had the second most screen time in all of post time skip. Big surprise. I feel like she was a very prominent character in Whole Cake Island, and she played off Luffy very well in Whole Cake Island, and she actually gets some good... There's some really good dramatic moments. I think she helps bring out a lot of the drama in Whole Cake Island with her and Luffy and her and Sanji. I think she was really good for that. I do agree that outside of that one arc, there's not been much of anything for her. She does feel like a bit of a throwaway character. I think part of it, the more I've thought about it, it's partly because it's not just... So, like, the more side characters you add, it's not just that... So, on the one hand, right, like, when you have just the Straw Hat Crew, right, like, pre-time skip, you have just the Straw Hat Crew as the main character sailing from island to island, and, you know, they'll get to islands, and, like, they'll meet other side characters there, but let's be real, side characters that they tend to meet at those islands are bozos, right? Like, they're not really good at shit. That's why the Straw Hats are so cool. Like, they're very capable characters, right? They're showing up to Alabasta, and their best fucking warrior, Pell, is one of the only five flying devil fruit users in the entire planet. Like, what's Pel's combat contribution? Nothing. Like, there's no real. The characters of the islands pre-time skip can't really contribute in ways, right? Like, Koza, what does he do? He nearly gets everyone fucking killed, right? Pel, what does he do? He does the bomb thing, but in terms of actual contribution outside of that, in terms of, like, you know, helping, like, defeat Baroque works, figure out how they're saving Alabasta, he's not really a big part of that. In general, when they go island to island, it's not a big. They're not really competing. Like, think about the Ennis Lobby arc. They had so many allies throughout that arc, and they're just a bunch of morons, right? The Frankie family, they what do they do? The most they do is they can get the Straw Hats to, like, the front door, and then it's the Straw Hats show, right? So on the one hand, it's combat stuff, which is pre-time skip. The Straw Hats got to shine more because they're just more capable than the other island characters. But you can also look beyond combat stuff, because characters like Nami, they really used to shine pre-time skip in that combat wasn't the only thing. Sometimes you just need a smart voice to point out what needs to be done, right? Skypiea, she was huge, not only in figuring out, like, what the fuck is going on with the treasure, how the topography of the whole island worked, the geography, etc., where they can find the gold. That was all huge for that arc. Nico Robin was very useful that arc as well. Just in Water 7 Ennis Lobby, if you look at the section towards the end of Water 7, where they find out why Robin left, etc., to them making the plan and getting on the sea train, Nami is spearheading a huge chunk of that because she's the character that has all the information. She's rational, she's logical, she's plan-oriented. She gets everybody together. She's like, we need to do this. This is our new goal. This is what's going on, etc., right? So she gets a huge amount of time there. As we hit the post-time skip, what's happened is basically there's too many characters involved that are, one, very, very capable now, right? Like, you get to an island like even just Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, etc. There's characters that are very capable, that are already putting plans into motion, be that Law, be that Sabo, be that even Kiros, the Tantadas. They've already got their plans in motion. They're already capable of doing a lot. The Straw Hats are not, like, one that takes away from Straw Hats in combat, right? The more other strong characters there are to fight, the less important certain Straw Hats become, right? Like, there was a period of time where if you're like the fourth or fifth strongest fighter on, if you're like the fifth strongest fighter on the Straw Hats, that's still a big deal, because that means you're probably still like the fifth most competent fighter that's a protagonist on any island you go to, you know? Nowadays, if you're like the fifth strongest fighter on the Straw Hats, you might be like not even top 10, top 12 in like the competency rankings combat-wise on an island. But that's just one part of it, because the other part is also just the other ways you can contribute go down as other smart, rational characters are introduced, right? Like, what did Nami contribute to the planning in Wano? Almost nothing, whereas she would have been a big deal if you say in Skypiea, or what they're, like, them figuring out what route they should do in Alabasta, right? Or in Water 7 Ennis Lobby. You can't do that as much because now you've got other smart characters. You've got, like, Law, you've got Kinemon, who's been planning for a long time. You've just got other forces like Hyogoro, etc., who are going to be more involved in war council type shit, more involved in, like, even things that come along with, like, random stealth, or just, there's so many, like, the more characters that come up that are more competent in many ways, the fewer ways that the Straw Hats can really, really contribute in ways that they used to be their soft talents in the past, right? I guess that's what I would say, like, soft talents. Their soft talents become less valuable as you have so many other side characters that can cover that in spades. Like, we're in fucking Vegapunk's island, where, like, Frankie's basically nothing. He's a nothing, right? There's no point to Frankie's existence here because you've already got the smartest man in the world, and there's fucking 6 of him. So you're never gonna be, like, you know how bad things would have to go before Frankie's engineering actually becomes relevant in this island? Even when we were in Punk Hazard, right? Chopper was the one that was making these connections with the giant kids and Mocha, etc. And, you know, he's speaking from his good-hearted nature, being a doctor, etc., about how they're going to help them, etc. But if I remember correctly, and I don't remember the ending of Dressrosa or Punk Hazard exactly how they wrapped this, but ultimately it was Trafalgar Law who, I believe, did the bulk of the work fixing the kids, or, like, helping cure the kids, right? I don't think Chopper was as useful there, because now you just got a doctor who's a fucking devil fruit using doctor. He's got the fucking doctor fruit, essentially. So it's just difficult because back in the day, if you were a Straw Hat, even if you weren't like number one in combat on the crew, you were still probably really fucking valuable combat-wise in general, just compared to the denizens of the island, because you're still gonna be one of the only people that can actually fight the opponents, right? But at the same time, your soft talents, right, be that planning, doctoring, being the engineer, whoever the fuck, like scholar, whatever, your soft talents also mattered a lot more. Nowadays, there's just so many characters that, like, you need to be really fucking strong to still be a relevant combatant, right? And then two, somebody else probably is better at your soft talent than you are. So there's even fewer ways to contribute if you're someone like Nami at this point. Anyway, let's keep going. Niall says Paradise is literally the Farmers League, lol. Yeah, pretty much. Alright, let's keep going. Derek Moss says Frankie ran over Big Mom. That's true, and that's a separate argument I make as to why Law and Kid accidentally being involved in Big Mom's defeat, despite it being mostly due to the TNT, is not that big of a deal. Because literally 3 of the mid-tier Straw Hats did better against Big Mom in a few panels at the beginning of the Onigashima battle than Law and Kid did after pulling every trick that they had out of their book. Alright, let's keep going. Let's get to the main thing, which is monsters. Rafi the Goat says this is why Morj doesn't like Law. He's a doctor, a fighter, and smart. I've explained this many times. If Law was a character from earlier in the story, I could see him being like my favorite character. I was too attached to the Straw Hats. Weird, I know. The characters that I fell in love with over like a decade of reading the story and watching the anime. I was too attached to them. I had this crazy belief that once we get back from this time skip and get to see them in the New World, that we would get to enjoy seeing the Straw Hats demonstrate their newfound capabilities, competency, etc. Fuck me, I guess it was time to watch, like, Sasuke and Friends instead. And then we just watch fucking Trafalgar Law dominate the series and make every decision for them and get, like, 90% of the highlights for the next 150 chapters. And it was just like, they're these random kids that he's tugging around on his plan. And it's just entirely the fucking Trafalgar Law show for a while. Yeah, I mostly just disliked the way that he was introduced into the story and what he kind of took away from it. But he as a character is a very good character. And again, he's the type of character that I would really enjoy if he was around from the beginning. You know? The Black Blur, thanks for the 5. Chopper couldn't even cure the smiles on Wano. At this point, Chopper is just the Straw Hat's emergency food. We're not going to get in there. Alright, anti-Kaido weapons. Yeah. Alright. So, I bet you guys are wondering, Morj, how are you going to be able to stream monsters, huh? How are you going to be able to do it? Because it's not a thing, right? You can't really stream from Netflix because that's the rules. But I figured out a way to get around it. And the best part is, I think you guys will hate it. So we'll just deal. And if you guys really hate it, then I don't have to stream monsters. Alright, so that's the deal we're going to make. Alright, so if you guys complain enough early on, then I'll stop streaming monsters. So I don't know if it's a genius way to stream or just so stupid that nobody else will do it. I think it's probably the latter. But I'll show you guys in a second. Leo Recto, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 9 months. Hey Morj, I was watching Punk Hazard. I realized Smoker was nerfed. He was beating Virgo every panel, but threw it to get Law's heart, then took Dofi's hit for Gear 5? Oh, for G5. I just associate G5 with Gear 5 at this point. No, I always disagree with that because the easier way to get Law's heart would just be to beat Virgo and then take Law's heart, right? You don't have to lose. Just like if you're trying to beat somebody up to take something from them, like if you're just trying to get something from somebody, right? The easier route is to just beat them up if you can and then take it from them. It is way harder to take a fucking beating from them while trying to pick their pocket. Why wouldn't I just don't understand that. You know, there's like a million other instances in One Piece where like character A wants to take something from character B. You know what they do? They just beat up character B and then take said item. Like that's what mugging is, by the way, right? Smoker couldn't beat Virgo because if he could, then he would have just done it and then given Law his heart back. All right. Mellowman KMT at Combo says the Straw Hats were the muscle, Law was the brain. No, but Law was also like the muscle. That was the fucked up part because Punk Hazard was the first arc I can recall in all of One Piece. In all of One Piece. And I think to date it's the only arc in all of One Piece. We've been through 20 arcs or something like that, 1100 chapters. It's the only time that the strongest, like the boss of the arc, the strongest character of the arc, the big bad of the arc, right, is defeated by someone that's not Luffy. Okay, we don't count Marineford and stuff because those were arcs where like it wasn't really about winning, right? Like everybody lost, right? Those are different. Punk Hazard was the first traditional One Piece arc where it's like you've got bad guys, the heroes are supposed to overcome them. Big bad, like Caesar's technically in charge, right? But it's kind of like you don't call Spandam the boss of Enies Lobby. Like Lucci's the final boss of Enies Lobby, right? Virgo was the final boss of Punk Hazard. Virgo was the strongest character on Punk Hazard. He was the big bad looming in Punk Hazard. Law beats him, right? So he steals the show from Luffy. Also the first time that Luffy's not beating the strongest character, not beating the strongest, bad guy. Zoro's not beating the second strongest. He got demoted to fighting Monet. And Sanji's not fucking beating anyone. So everyone in the Straw Hats essentially took a big hit. I didn't fucking wait for Luffy to train 2 years and endure 100 chapters of the post-time skip, right? Because you've been through Fishman Island and off Punk Hazard. So I didn't wait like 100 chapters after Luffy's training. Luffy's training is finished. I'm reading One Piece for 100 chapters, 2.5 years. And what's the payoff? Luffy fucking up Caesar? I'm watching Luffy beat Caesar while Law, this dude that gets airdropped into the story out of the fucking sky, gets to one-shot Virgo, who's the most badass villain that we've had in all of post-time skips so far. I'm just like, what the fuck am I reading here? So that drove me insane. And then we get to Dressrosa, and I'm like, things will change around in Dressrosa. They eventually did. Like fucking 3 or 4 years later. But for the first half of Dressrosa, the majority of Dressrosa, what I'm reading is Law calling all the shots. I'm watching Luffy dick around in the Coliseum, fighting literal fodder, dressed up as Lucy. Taking on like 80-year-old washed up Garp haters, random like grandsons, Hajrudin. Like I'm watching that play out for God knows how many chapters, while Law is out there getting all the badass fights against Doflamingo. He's fighting an admiral. He's fighting Doflamingo and Fujitora at the same time. Like, let's be real. We're reading the first half of Dressrosa. What's the most exciting thing going on in the first half of Dressrosa? It's the fight. It's the three-way battle. It's the three-way battle happening in Greenbit between Law, Law, Doflamingo, and Fujitora. No, who gives a fuck about Luffy versus like Cavendish or whoever in the Coliseum? Zoro's looking for his sword. Sanji, Nami, they all get sent to a literal different island. They get kicked out of the arc. I was losing my fucking mind. I was like, when did Oda forget who the main characters were? Why is this Trafalgar Law guy just suddenly, like, it's like we suddenly got rid of the title One Piece and it's just like, Law. That's the story. I was so mad. Not actually mad, because I still believe that Luffy would eventually, like, get to be the star of the show. It happened. It just took another 50 chapters for us to get there when finally it was like, okay, enough screwing around. I know we had a time skip 6 years ago. I know Luffy has done nothing of note since then except beat up Chinjiao, who we never fucking heard of before this, right? Then finally Oda was like, okay, now we're going to shift Law over to the side. And you know what? Why don't I start writing about this Luffy character again? And that was when, to me, we finally got back into the swing of what One Piece is supposed to be, right? Nobody else can defeat Doflamingo. Luffy goes gear 4th. Everybody's happy. Luffy saves the island. Luffy's the hero. None of the other Straws got really good fights. Zoro got to stomp Pika. Half the Straw Hat crew had to be sacrificed just for Law to get his spotlight, to get his screen time. But, we did it. We're out of Dressrosa. So I was happy about that. But yeah, that's 200 chapters. Like, there's no way to spin it. 200 chapters. You know the pace at which Oda writes, it's like way more years than necessary to cover 200 chapters. You've just been waiting and waiting from the time skip for the Strats to finally do something. And we kind of didn't really even get that. We just finally got to see Luffy do something, which was the bare minimum start. So, yeah, a lot of resentment towards Law because, like, I just don't... I don't... If you're a fan of the Strats, you really, really love the crew, if you really, really love the main characters, I just don't understand... like, why everybody was so okay with this dude just being thrown into the story and just dominating the series. And it's just like, for the sake of his storyline, even though we don't fucking know who he is, he just came out of the blue. For the sake of his storyline, everybody else that we like just gets shoved under the rug. I don't get it. Everybody was on board. I just don't get it. All right. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We got to see Luffy fight Horty. Yeah, Horty was very strong. Yeah. Brago the Ace comes in and says, Law is just him. God damn it, man. I'm talking while Brago's got a channel called BDA Law. What a surprise. Alright. He is a good character, though. That's the biggest problem. I wish he was a bad character, so I could say more about him, but he is a good character. Let's see. Alright, so here's the way the reaction's gonna work. Alright, I want everybody who's gonna be upset about this to get it all out right now in the first 2 minutes, because it's not gonna be an ideal way to do reactions, alright? Alright, so here's what I'm thinking. If I can't play it on stream because it's a Netflix thing, but what I can do is use the science of... If you guys are gonna hate this, by the way, I'm gonna hate it even more, because you're gonna see what I have to do in a second. Alright, so I'm thinking... is this gonna work? Alright, so I'm thinking I'm gonna do something like this. Yeah. Alright, so this is what we got. I'm gonna be holding this phone while I watch. Alright? And this way you guys can basically see what's going on. This is how we're doing it. So, yeah. If you guys don't like it, keep in mind, I'm the person who has to hold the phone. So think about how much I dislike this. Alright, is everybody ready? Remix King, thanks for the 2. Almost like waiting for Morj to do stream topic. Alright, let's go. Alright. There's no... If anybody's got some other way to do it, please tell me right now. Otherwise, this is what we're doing. This is it. Alright? Alright? Oh, shit. Let me do this. So I've got a second... You guys don't know, but I've got a second laptop right here. And that's what I'm using to angle this situation. Hold on. If you guys don't want me to do it, I will happily not do it. So somebody please speak now. I will happily cancel this whole thing. Oh wait, I'm gonna be playing it out of this one. Remix King says just make it small and put it in the corner. Nah, it's too risky. Too risky. Can't do that. Also, I don't think Netflix can. I think you literally can't stream while you have Netflix in the at the same time. Don't think it works. All right, let's see. All right, who's seen this already? Yeah, you can't capture Netflix. Who's seen this already? Who's seen Monsters? Who has seen Monsters? Alright, who's seen Monsters? Because I feel like this is not the best first watch method if you guys have not seen Monsters yet. Cigarworks says make a small screen and put it under live chat. I can't because you can't capture Netflix in the first place, as far as I know. Alright, everyone seen this? Alright, so then you guys won't mind. Alright, let's go. Can I move this like this? All right. I've read Monsters, by the way, just so you guys know. So I know everything that happens. It's a very fat cat. I wonder how surprised people were to find out that Ryuma's character is not like Zoro in most ways. By the way, Shirano is the stand-in for Mihawk, so everything that happens to Shirano is basically exactly what to expect from Mihawk. Cigarvik says, a One Piece fan can't even part a show. Your hockey is weak. Oh, shit. What? Fuck. Am I gonna have to keep, like, refreshing this? I didn't even know that this would, disappear. Oh, that's like a classic Oda design before we got classic Oda designs. Cigar Verx says, all these memberships money, buy a tripod. I have a tripod, but there's not actually. God damn it. There's not actually room for me to set this up while having the laptop right here. And I would never do this again, so there's no point. I wonder if this like beefs up the fights at all. You know what I mean? Because I know the fight in this episode or whatever one shot, it's a pretty quick one. I don't know, man. I feel like the problem is I know everything that's gonna happen in this. Oh, who knows the twist at the end of this? So the reason that I think that this episode or this one shot is like the first sign of Oda's like writing, like his ideas that he kind of gets down the line. I feel like the twist at the end of this one shot, right? That's the first. I don't know. It's a To me, it's like a really really good idea for a one shot. Like that's what seals the story for it because I feel like the rest of the narrative is pretty straightforward and by the book, but the reveal of who King is, the King, I don't know. I think that was the first time that you kind of see some Foda's creativity and his knack for kind of surprising truths about characters. God damn it! How important is it to you guys that you're able to see what I'm seeing? It can't be that important, right? Yeah, I feel like that's the real. I don't know. I feel like that's the real value of this one shot because the rest is just it's standard standard short story badass protagonist whatever. Wait, how's it so far along already? I swear this is like halfway through the actual manga. I'm just gonna pull up the manga on the side. I'm curious. Use the other computer. This is too complicated. I feel like this is way too going way too fast, but then there's more stuff to the end of this that they must have tacked on. All right, let me try doing video. I feel like if I do video, it should stay up longer. Wait, what did he say? I heard him say Shitaro. video doesn't work either. We're gonna go back to camera mode. Let's go back to the OG. See if this works. These are also the classic, like, Oda style villains, where they're kind of, like, cartoonishly evil, and they, like, really laugh a lot and revel in, like, we're so. We're just, like, the worst people ever. That's also, like, a pretty Oda esque style of writing. What's going on here? Masuzuyo G says this is a Morj stream. Yeah, this takes me back. Who remembers the projector streams back in the day? This is essentially a worse version of that. But at least there's a reaction happening. Other streamers would have just been like, we can't do Netflix, so it's just over. I promised a Monsters reaction stream, so you guys are getting a Monsters reaction stream. It's just not a good one. You know what would be wild? Is if like I still got if I still got copyright struck off of this, that'd be insane. I think at that point their AI filters or whatever the fuck they use have gotten too good. Cigarverk says, thanks for the 5. Not to spoil, but Oda informed me that he had an alternate ending for Monsters where time traveling swordsman defeats Ryuma. His name is Pin Zoro. Yeah, this guy Serrano is Mihawk's ancestor. I wonder why Oda chose to, because like Serrano here is just like a bit of a joke at the end of the day. I wonder why he chose to still take that character's inspiration from Mihawk down the line, because Mihawk's meant to be a very, you know, one of the most badass characters in One Piece. So he must have just liked something about the contrast between the idea of kind of a more Japanese samurai inspired swordsman in his main character Zoro going up against, I guess, a more European inspired swordsman. I think he just liked that idea of contrast. Like a Spanish style, whatever you want to say. I think the manga was better just because I think the manga understands that it's not doing anything too crazy emotionally. Whereas the anime is really, really trying to play this up. You know what I mean? Like it's over dramatizing it from what it's earned emotionally so far. I don't like this. I don't like this bit because again in the manga the emotion right now is supposed to be very like how do I say? Like you get the sad part and then now it's supposed to be like a badass turnaround of like him suddenly, you know, just going into the zone, charging in and going nuts. I don't like that they're still running like sad dramatic music right now. It just feels kind of wrong. It'd be kind of like Luffy busting into Arlong Park, but like they're still playing Nami's backstory sad music and trying to keep that tone up. It just doesn't really make any sense. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that they. I think tonally they just went with the wrong thing right here. Like this is like right now. What's supposed to happen right now? Yeah, this should be nah. They should not have sad music playing right now. This should feel epic. This should feel hype. This is where the hype should be kicking in. No, why are they animating this so well but rolling with this tone? Unless maybe I'm misremembering the manga, but I felt like that was the flow. I remember at some point he just turns around and charges in. Mahabit Sadeki says, Morj, if you go bald, I laugh less. Great stream. Yep, move it along. Alright, that was pretty good. I think Oda also really likes the idea of outsiders coming in to save, a certain helpless people. I mean, that's just what every One Piece arc is, but it seems to he really likes that. It's also interesting that the plot of Wano was so specific about an outsider coming in to help them, and Ryuma, who's kind of the basis of a lot of the lore of Wano, he in his own storyline was an outsider. This is the basis for ZKK, by the way. The monsters one shot. I think a lot of it comes back to this. I think they're over dramatizing. Oh, they changed the fight. I think the fight was fine as is, but I guess you gotta extend time. Oh, credits? Alright. So Oda still had this idea. I've just forgotten certain things. He still had this idea in his head of like repaying a meal with, you know, basically saving their entire civilization. That basis was always there for his idea of a good protagonist. Yeah, this is the big reveal. I thought that this is a really cool concept. Not the rest of the story, but the idea that there's this character Yeah, you guys got the gist of it. I like the idea of like a character that's essentially already this like he's made such a legendary name for himself that he's searching himself out to defeat himself, and he doesn't know that he himself has already become a legend. I like that idea quite a bit. He's just hunting. He's just hunting his own legend. I think that's a really, really cool idea. The rest of the one shot, it's just standard. I think the anime tried to do more with it than it like really lends itself to. There's more? We hit the credits though. What else is there? Let's see, Ryuma. So I guess it's gonna try and tie it into One Piece a bit. What do you mean there's more? Let's see. Let's see. I thought I was done. Still gotta hold this shit a little bit longer. What was the angle? We're like... Yeah, it's good enough for you guys. You guys get the gist. So there's something added to it? What? Okay, Ryuma. Oh, shit. Oh, cool. Oh, I like this. This was not in the original manga, fun fact. In case you guys couldn't tell. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. That made it worth it for me. That's weird though. Cause we should have seen some hockey then, right? If they're gonna tie it like that, show us some hockey. Cause now I'm gonna be like, well, that's just as strong as Rama was. He was just a normal sword fighter. Um, I don't know. That was. Um, Yeah, for those of okay, who's read the manga before this? I didn't think that there was really anything special that they did with this one shot. I think that the manga was just straight up better. I feel like this was just a let's capitalize on One Piece. That's basically it. Just capitalize on One Piece, get another spin-off in there. Um yeah, I think the fun part for me was just getting to revisit and then see lots of the earlier ideas that turn into One Piece ideas down the line. Again, I think the only creative part, but I did think it's really creative, was just the ending reveal where it's basically who's this king that he's been searching for this entire time. Okay, he himself was the king. I really like that idea. Just the guy that wandering. It's the ultimate wandering swordsman idea. Just searching without end for this battle that you can never like this victory or against this legendary foe that you will never be able to find because you've actually already achieved what you would like to have achieved. Like you are the king that you're searching for. I like that idea quite a bit. Everything else you see like standard Oda ideas. I think even if you look at all of his one shots, he always leans towards a protagonist that's a little bit goofy in their mannerisms, right? So you're never gonna have like I don't think Oda could ever write a story where someone like Zoro is legitimately the main character, right? So a little bit goofy in their mannerisms, but still got that Zoro aspect of honor and everything like that with the touching of the blades and repaying food. I forgot that he did all that to repay her for food. I think that's always just been one of Oda's concepts of what he likes his protagonists to be, not just character. I think Oda doesn't like characters, doesn't like heroes that are literal heroes that will just go and save people for no reason. But at the same time, Oda's concept of what he likes in a protagonist is someone that's kind of like you do me a favor, I'll do you a favor, but the favor that's all obviously being returned is a much bigger favor. Like I'll kill a dragon for you if you give me food. So it's like Oda's way of like not writing like a plain hero, but at the same time it is a hero that just like is slightly, following a certain code of quid pro quo rather than I guess the generic. It's just one step removed from just being a pure hero, basically. But I think Oda likes his protagonist being that one step removed. So yeah, you got stuff like that. You got the traditional like cartoonishly evil bad guys with their cartoonishly evil schemes. Um, yeah, and I just like that we got to see Ryuma back. Like the connection of Ryuma back then is the same Ryuma as today. The thing that still just feels somewhat inconsistent is like the land of Wano is it doesn't look like Wano, right? So is the explanation that Wano is just totally different back then? Hmm. I'm chasing the ghost in Wano, says Ryuma. Yeah, like a ghost that you can't really like LeBron chasing a ghost in Chicago. Yeah, I missed a membership message from Dynamic. I'm sorry. Let me see. I was so engrossed in holding up the phone. Where is Can someone fill me in on what the message was? I can't find it now. Sorry about that. Tala says the way Oda puts food giving on a pedestal explains his love for Sanji. Yeah, you can see little aspects of what Oda likes in his protagonists between all of his one shot. Like, there's Luffy's first and foremost, obviously, but Luffy ended up a lot dumber than any of his other one shot protagonists. In fact, the Luffy that we have was even dumber than the Luffy that Oda had in the Romance Dawn 1.0 and version 2.0, like the first two Romance Dawns that he wrote. He was just like, something's off with this character. What do I do? Okay, he needs to be slightly even dumber than I've already got. So that was the solution with Luffy. Yeah, but you see trace elements of all the Monster Trio type characters. What's the message from Dynamic? Does anyone know? Black Hill says that's not Wano in this, but I feel like it's got to be Wano, right? Or you think that he's left Wano at this point and is just traveling the world? Is this going to be part of the Wano analysis? No, it's not. Dynamic says, okay, I'm just trying to thank Morj for saving my marriage. No worries, man. I don't know how I helped save your marriage, but that's nice to hear, Dynamic. Marcel Bean says, but isn't the Monsters Ryuma a different one from the One Piece Ryuma? I don't know. Does anybody else know? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. I feel like we should get the stream likes up to 200. I did hold the phone for you guys for a good 20-something minutes. So you guys would be able to watch. I could have put on the timer, which maybe would have been the more elegant solution, but I wanted some sort of a visual cue for you guys to be able to follow along where I'm at. Otherwise, I just feel like it's not quite the same. So let's get the stream likes up to 200. I think at the very least, today I earned those the stream likes. I did not have fun holding that phone for 20 minutes. Yeah, it doesn't look like Ryuma. It doesn't look like Ryuma, but at the same time, I feel like... Well, no. Sorry, it doesn't look like Wano. It looks like Ryuma, obviously. But, like, you're right. Ryuma was an outsider that seemed like he came and left in a day. But then couldn't that be... But, like, Wano was much bigger back in the day, right? It was a huge-ass... Like, the Wano that we have today is a tiny little island. The actual old-school true Wano is a huge, huge place. So wouldn't it be kind of like, you know, like someone coming from one town in Alabasta all the way to another town in Alabasta? Or I guess, yeah, it makes more sense if he just sailed to some other island or something like that. I don't know. Remix King says, no one told you to hold the phone? I'm not going to just react with you guys having no sort of visual, but at the same time, there's no way to do it with Netflix that's clean. You can't capture Netflix, as far as I understand. You can't stream Netflix through YouTube. I don't know how other streamers are sometimes able to do it, but there's a reason you don't see too many of the monsters reactions right now. It's just like there's ways to do it, obviously, because people do stream reactions to Netflix shows and everything. I don't know those ways, so I did the next best thing that I could think of, which was like, why don't I just fucking like show the mirrored version? I saw some people asking like, well, doesn't Morj have like a small mirror? No, I'm a guy. I don't have like a fucking makeup mirror or something like that. I just I don't have a small mirror. I have the mirror in my bathroom. That's my mirror, right? Mirror in my bathroom. I'm not going to take that, move it over here. Anime Dimension, thanks for the 2. I think it is Wano from more than 800 years old. I thought that Ryuma was after that period, though. But I guess I can't remember if it was ever clearly established. Umir Ula says, Morj, we appreciate your effort. Thank you. I do appreciate the appreciation. Kosh Panda says, we've seen how Wano looked like back in the day. That far back in the day? Wano could have looked completely different. I don't know. English 1D1 says, is it ever stated that he never left Wano? I guess not. It's just that he ended up wandering for so long. I guess it would make sense, because even if Wano was a lot bigger, it wouldn't be so big that someone just has never heard of. No, I mean, they've all heard of Ryuma the King. That's, I guess, the point. But some people have. I don't know. He did seem like, culturally, he seemed like out of place there. So, it's hard to say. Bial Bula 3 row 9 says also Ryuma is a one-eyed samurai. That might have come later. Embiid just dropped 70? Are you guys joking? I'm not going to try and switch it over to basketball talk, but you guys don't understand how big of a deal that is. That is actually insane. Embiid dropped 70. Oh my god. What did he do to Wembanyama? Oh my god, he's just a kid. What did he do to... Oh my god, that's disgusting. Holy shit. That is insane. Cat is about to drop 72. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't watch the current NBA anymore, because I believe that these are all amazing performances, but, like, it's not, like, the scoring is just too out of hand at this point. There's something, it's just, it's hard for me to, like, it's not real to me anymore. The numbers are just so absurd, you know they're inflated, that, again, scoring 70 is still insane, because it's the same as scoring probably, like, 60 or 55 or something, like, 8 years back, you know? It's still insane. It's just I wish there was a nice way to a conversion way I could think of right away, but it's just too insane for me to regularly, like, things just stop being impressive. Again, 70 still made my jaw drop, but I just can't watch the NBA with the numbers like this right now. Nothing means anything that much to me anymore, because it'd be one thing if Embiid dropped 70, but then you just told me, oh, and Karl Anthony Towns is about to drop. Yeah, he's on his way to 70 as well. Barely partway through the third quarter, he's already at 53. Yeah. Like, that's the thing. Like, Karl Anthony Towns is not a 70-point scorer. I know what 70-point scorers look like, and it's like fucking Kobe Bryant and shit, right? Like, it's not Karl Anthony. It just doesn't mean as much when Embiid and Kat are both dropping 70. Like, it was a huge deal when Devin Booker dropped 70-something, like 5-6 years back or something. I was like, holy shit, that seems like an anomaly. And then it's like, oh, well, Dame did it. Embiid just did it. Kat might be about to do it. It just doesn't... Things don't mean as much anymore. Anyway, sorry about the basketball talk, but it's just... it's kind of nuts. World of CJ Nation says, wait, there's power creep in basketball? It's not so much power creep. I think overall players are, over time, getting better, for sure. You're seeing more diverse skill sets, more unique freaks of nature. That is definitely happening, but at the same time, it's like... Imagine if, like, key, like, radars, like, things that measured key, those kind of broke, and then they started showing higher key stats than actually exist. See if that makes sense. Because it's like, we're getting a lot of all-time great scorers, but not to the degree that they're, like, just everybody's, like, a better scorer today than everybody in the past was. You know what I mean? So part of it is just the system we're using for measurement has kind of gotten skewed, where it's just too easy to rack up points, pace of play, the way offenses are built to maximize efficiency and everything. Like, things have gone a bit too much. He shot 21 free throws, so then he still scored 50 points. Like, you take those away. Worst 70-point in NBA history? I don't know. English 1D1 says, it was cool when MJ went Super Saiyan, but by now they're all over the place. Again, it's more like the key measurer is broken. So it's saying everyone's a Super Saiyan, but not everyone's a Super Saiyan, you know? Again, the simple way that I know that this is true is thank God for LeBron James, because LeBron exists, we can compare a dude who played in the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s. We can compare a dude across all three decades, and he was like a top player. Isn't that fucking insane? LeBron is like a top 5, top 10 player in every single decade. Right? Minimum. Anyway, we can compare him across all 3 decades. I know LeBron right now is not as good as he was in like the 2010s. I know he's not. But he's scoring now better than he was back then. That means that, like, you can just tell he's nowhere near as good as he was back then, but he's able to score more points than he could back then. What does that mean? It means that the game has changed and points have, like, there's been point inflation, right? Because if you took LeBron from back then, what would he be scoring now? It would be fucking some absurd number, right? So if you use LeBron as basically like a little measuring stick, you can tell that the numbers have gone up and it's just become easier to score. It's just hard to say by how much, right? Anyway. Anime Dimension, thanks for the 10. Part 1. The reason I think it is Wano from more than 800 years ago. They mentioned Ryuma the King is the world's greatest swordsman. That can only be possible if Wano is open to the world. No, because it could just mean that, like, Ryuma was... Because, remember, Ryuma's legend did extend outside of Wano. Because it was because Ryuma was so strong during the era that he lived in that it left this impression on the Marines and the entire world that you can't fuck with Wano, ever. Like, nobody goes to Wano because of Ryuma. So, it doesn't have to mean that Wano is open to the world. Rather, it just means that... I think the order of events was this, right? The order of events was there was a period of time where Marines and various ships and like factions would keep coming to Wano to try and take gold and ravage the land and just take advantage of the land. Then Ryuma rose up, kicked everyone's ass so badly that everybody got really scared of Wano and left Wano alone, and from then on they became isolationist, right? But I don't know if it was established that Wano was isolationist before that, because I don't think they could be, because, again, they were being attacked by, and just pillaged, etc., by so many different parties because they were a land of gold. So I think it's post-Ryuma that the isolationism really began, just in the wake of basically what outside parties had done to them for so long, and the newfound security that they had thanks to the reputation that Ryuma had left behind about Wano samurai. So, I don't think it has to be from more than 800 years ago. Ryuma died a few hundred years ago in OP? Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Anime Dimension, thanks for the part 2. So, I think he participated in war with Joy Boy, died protecting Wano, hence he's God of Blade / Guardian Deity. That will make things more interesting. But other people are clarifying that Ryuma was 400 years ago. To me, that does make a lot of sense, Ryuma being 400 years ago. Just because... yeah, it sounds as though like the Marines and all of that stuff existed before Ryuma's time, and it's thanks to Ryuma and the legend that he kind of left behind that everybody left the place alone. Yeah, Ryuma's not from the Void Century. I just didn't remember. So then, I guess it doesn't really matter if this place was Wano or not. I don't think I don't think that this place was Wano in that case. I don't think it was Wano just because if it's 400 years ago that was Ryuma's time, the culture of Wano can't change that much in 400 years. And also, I doubt that, before I was thinking that maybe it's the lower levels of Wano that happen to get submerged. I don't think that that's a 400-year range in which that happened. I don't think Wano can go from being what essentially looked like like an old Western town, to being this hardcore feudal Japan civilization in 400 years, right? And it's not even 400 years, like 40. No, Odin's time was 20 years ago. Yeah, I just don't think that would make sense that much. I figure that it really had to have been Ryuma having left Wano, wandering the world, but the legend of Ryuma the King obviously makes sense because he created that legend in Wano itself. Yeah, left Wano, traveled around. That would mean that dragons were a thing in One Piece 400 years ago. Can anybody tell me concretely, has it ever been stated in SBS or Oda interview or anything like that, whether or not Ryuma from One Piece is the same canonically as Ryuma from Monsters? Because I'd heard different things, but the same initially I always thought it was the same Ryuma. Then I began to hear, I think more recently, that it's two separate Ryumas. One is just inspired from the other. And then finally I finished this, obviously, anime episode, and it seems to heavily imply that they are one and the same. It's the same Ryuma. Otherwise, why would you end it with that little clip? Jolly D. Joestar says the Ryuma animation on was worse than Toei. I mean, yeah, I don't think that it was. Well, I mean, Toei has really good bits of animation, like really, really great bits of animation. So I don't think that's a very high bar, right? Again, everyone always knows that my issue with Toei is the parts that are not highlight clips, right? But yeah, I don't think that there was anything too special animation-wise with this. I don't think the art style was fine. It's just not very memorable in my opinion. And then the bigger thing is I feel like they really, really, like, if you read the one shot, like, let me try and pull up the one shot for you guys right now. I feel like tonally the one shot is very, the flow of emotion in the one shot is very different. It's not meant to be a super dramatic one shot in the first place, whereas I think they tried to do that more here. And the turnaround is what they really fucked up, where they really tried to keep it as a very, like, they tried to keep the tone very heavy while she's going through her dramatic breakdown and he's coming after Shirano and all that. But that's kind of odd because you don't need to keep it up that long. Like, you can have the dramatic turnaround and him charging in and all that, and it's epic as is. I feel like they got the tone kind of off there. Remix King, thanks for the 5. Would Cat be the greatest shooting center of all time? Would Cat, the greatest shooting center of all time, eventually reach a point where his reach all times highs as he gets closer to his prime? Same for the MVP. Dude, I don't know. I just don't view him as like a reliable playoff player in general. Like, it sounds generic to say, but like, some guys, they just don't have the tenacity, or haven't shown the tenacity for me to really believe that. Like, yeah, they've got very high talent, but I don't think Cat would necessarily be, like, one, I think he's pretty much around his prime at this point as is, right? This is kind of what you get, I feel like, with him. He might get a bit better. I haven't watched the Timberwolves that much this year at all, so maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe he's taking a huge leap. But I just don't have that much faith in him hitting like a crazy high ceiling consistently. Jokic has a tremendous like peak potential, just because, one, you kind of don't like it. You can be hesitant while it's going on, but there's the argument to be made that like Jokic, what he's doing right now, is already among the highest peaks in basketball. Like, you could already make that argument as is. I think everyone just needs to see it succeed for a bit longer to say for sure. But yeah. Rodrigo Aliaga, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Breezy 2X says, yo, Morj, gay son or thought daughter? What the fuck? I think, what's the more politically correct answer here? I think, is the answer that I'm not supposed to care either way? Is that the correct answer? I'll say gay son. I think that's probably, yeah, like that. You're not supposed to care either way, right? So, yeah, there you go. Right? Isn't it politically incorrect to care for either of these two things, right? In general, if we take out the adjectives, right, the labels, would I want a son or daughter? I think it would really depend. It's hard to explain. It would depend on certain outside factors in life, I think, for me to pick. I think it would, yeah, I don't know. I think it would depend. According to Library of Ohara, Monsters is not canon. I don't make that up. But like, what's his source for that? I believe him because Arthur like researches this shit a lot. But you know. Rodrigo Aliaga says, where do you scale Ryuma, taking into account his title of Sword God, plus the whole world government doesn't mess with Wano because of Ryuma rep? Well, I used to think very, very highly of Ryuma, but having watched him in action just now, right? I saw, and apparently this is the canon Ryuma. I saw no Conqueror's Haki. I saw no Haki. I saw no Armament Haki. I saw no Black Lightning. Um, Based on what I saw just now, I rate him at about pre-time skip Zoro. That's what I got. That's if we're going like, let's be real. If we're going off of the anime that we just watched and we're saying that's canon Ryuma, I got him at pre-time skip Zoro, right? If we're going by like the legend that he's established in the One Piece world and we're being serious, then I would say it's really difficult because it's like, how strong is Endgame Zoro supposed to be? You know, that's, to me, that's the question. How strong is Endgame Zoro supposed to be? Um, I could personally see something like, I would say upper end, something like if we're getting to the upper end, I would say something like Rogers level. That's what I would say upper end, you know? Um, Somewhere between Rogers level and, I don't know. Because if we start talking higher than Rogers level, then we're just getting into like a level that we don't really even know exists in the One Piece world. You know what I mean? Like, then it's just hypothetical, right? Because out of the characters that we kind of have seen in action, Rogers probably number one, him or Whitebeard, right? Him, Whitebeard, Rocks, I suppose. Rocks we haven't seen in action, I guess. But like, then you get to the characters that are basically the hypothetical. Like, we could probably assume that Emu is somewhere above even that, right? We could assume Joy Boy probably somewhere above Roger, right? But we just don't really have a gauge for by how much, how big is the gap? Is it close? Like, what if Roger is actually really close to how strong Joy Boy was, right? And the only thing that Roger was missing was he was born too soon, and that was really it. But otherwise, Roger would have been capable of fulfilling the will of D. Who knows? We don't really know. So I'm hesitant to keep putting things above the Roger Whitebeard level. It's hard for me to do just yet. Not saying it's not plausible, but it's just because we don't really have a like, I don't know what the gap would be between like a Joy Boy and a Roger. You know what I mean? So putting people like in that space, it's just a difficult thing right now. I think we'll probably get more of an idea. Really, it's going to depend on Zoro, because I feel like Endgame Zoro would be as strong as Ryuma, or stronger, right? So, you know, if Endgame Zoro is as strong as Roger is stronger, then that kind of gives us a good idea for Ryuma. At the same time, I could easily see that not being the case, so, you know, maybe it's a little bit less. I don't know. PenPal1058, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. W content, thank you. Listen to the VODs at work religiously. Oh, awesome. So you're listening to it right now. Would be Pirate King if I knew how to upgrade on mobile. Well, don't worry about it. I'm sure you can figure out at some point. I would appreciate it. If not, no worries. We are approaching that time. Next week I will drop the submission forms for the... not the submission forms, the submission post for the Pirate King podcast, so people can get their questions in there. So yeah. Cigar Verk, thank you for the 10. Wait, did I miss something? Yeah. Let's do a quick poll on Rima just to see. Thanks for the 10. Sanji is a living devil fruit. I don't know about that. Vegapunk said devil fruit equals dreams. Sanji fuels his powers with emotions. He dreamt to be invisible. He got invisibility. Him transforming, ice roll change, etc. That would be really, really cool. I'm going to be honest, even to this day, the whole Sanji is the product of technology and science thing is still weird to me. It just feels antithetical to his character, and it's just, I don't know, it's just too out of the blue. It's just not something I ever associated with him prior to Whole Cake Island. It's just, it's weird, and it doesn't help that he really rejected that quite a bit throughout Whole Cake Island, so I was used to, okay, so it's still the Sanji I know, it's not just some science thing. And then in Wano, it's like, no, but it is science, and that's basically how he's going to get stronger, and that's kind of just what he represents now. So, still not used to Sanji being whatever you want to call it, cyborg, whatever. I would love if it's something, because what you suggested is closer to what his roots are, because his roots are about dreams, right? Go back to Baratier. That's his core character conflict, pursuing dreams, the importance of dreams to him. learning to chase them. I much prefer that. It's just I don't know if that's likely to turn out to be the case, because I think at the end of the day, if Oda just wanted an avenue to Sanji getting stronger and he could work that in with the science angle that he's been working with throughout most of the New World, might be that. Akash Panda says, by above Roger's level, you mean Mihawk's level, right? Oh, shit. I don't want to get into this. Gabe D. Champ says, Zoro didn't cut a dragon until post-time skip. No, but that's like Kaido. Like, the dragon that we saw here, it just seems like, what's the difference between that and a Sea King, you know? Like, Ryuma even's like, yeah, it's just a lizard. Like, Kaido's dragon is, like, look at Kaido's dragon form. Kaido's dragon is a totally different form. That's like a god type Eastern dragon, weather manipulating type dragon. Whatever Ryuma cut here, it's literally just, it's smaller than Sea Kings that Zoro's cut pre-time skip, I'm fairly certain. Right? Like, it's just a fire-breathing Sea King. What's the difference? It's not that big. We can look at the panels, or we can look at the, like, go look at the anime. It's really not that big. We're not talking about, like, it's not that big. Ryuma cut it without Haki. You know? What are we basing things off of here? You know? Jolly D. Joseph says, when is new One Piece opening reaction? Oh, it's at the begin. I'm not joking here. I did it towards the beginning of the stream. If you want to catch that, you can catch that. I did it legit, you know, not on my phone. I did it legit. So if you want to watch that, then check that out. I'm also, like, I'm not being serious. Like, I literally don't know what we're supposed to, like, when Oda drew that one shot, he's not thinking about the One Piece power scale or anything like that, right? It's literally just a one shot of, I'm going to draw a samurai killing a dragon. That's it, right? If you were to ask me objectively, like, straight up, like, just pretend that's not, like, pretend we don't know names or anything like that, or reputation. We're just seeing a character do that to that dragon. You're like, where would you scale that character to? In the context of it being One Piece, and, like, we're in the One Piece universe. You're like, yeah, this happened. Where would you scale that to? I'd be like, okay, well, he cut brass, or, like, bronze or whatever, right? That's not that big of a deal. So that was the first feat of his that was noted. I'm like, okay, pre-time skip Zoro. He defeated a swordsman that had basically no feats and just seemed like an average swordsman by, like, today's One Piece standards. So it's like, that doesn't tell us anything. So then all we got is really like, okay, he cuts a large, like, Sea King type level monster. It's like, okay, it's all pre-time skip Zoro. Like, if you're just, like, does he show Haki? No. Conquers Haki? Obviously no. Like, any sort of large scale feat that pre-time skip Zoro seems like is beyond that? No. Right? If you want to add the stipulation that, like, well, technically dragons are supposed to be, like, if you assume every dragon is supposed to be as tough as Kaido's dragon scales, then that's a totally different conversation. To me, I'm just like, I look at Kaido's dragon, I look at this thing, they're two totally different things. This thing really does just look like a big lizard, like a Sea King. Like, that's what it looks like. Ryuma's even like, it's just a lizard. I don't know. That's if you're asking me, just, like, pretend we know nothing. And I'm like, yeah, if I'm going by One Piece scaling stuff, like, visually, this just looks like a swordsman with no Haki or any advanced Haki abilities or anything like that cut basically a Sea King that could fly. And he can cut bronze or brass or whatever that statue was. So again, pre-time skip Zoro level stuff. If you're like, okay, this was legendary samurai Ryuma in his prime, then I'm like, okay, if we put that context in there, then I'm like, let's assume that Zoro just didn't draw, Oda didn't draw, like, Haki's just not included here because you're not going to visually show Haki. That wasn't planned. I'm going to assume that the dragon, we should take it as this dragon is probably supposed to be as tough as Kaido or something like that, or, like, the scales are as tough as Kaido's dragon scales or something. I don't know. We can assume that Shirano is actually, like, a really top-level, admiral-level swordsman or something like that. I don't know. Like, you can make a lot of assumptions to make it work with the idea that this is canonically supposed to be Samurai Ryuma in his prime. But if you're like, just call it like you see it, pretend that you're seeing this, like, blind in the One Piece universe, you just watch this sequence of events happen. I'm like, yeah, that's like a pre-time skip Zoro kind of level character. Anime Dimension, thanks for the 20. Part 1, Wano in the past was known as Golden Country. Many pirates and nobles managed to invade country and were subdued by Ryuma. Okay, hold on. Yeah, after subjugation, countries gained respect, and world government never had courage to invade it again. All right, so I'm gonna read that's the part one. Then part two, and thank you for the 20 again, man. Thanks a lot. My thesis is at the time of Ryuma, Wano country had its borders open and was not protected by current geography. 800 years ago, it was known as the land of gold, being coveted by all people. Part one was mentioned by Yukimaru in that. Yeah, I remember this. Okay. I but Ryuma lived 400 years ago from what people are saying. And to reconcile with what you're saying, the natural barriers are a significant impediment to, people invading Wano, but it's not the only thing. Like I'm sure it was difficult. How do I say this? I'm sure the natural barriers existed to some degree. It does seem like the flooding took place over time, but the natural barriers existed to some degree before all this. However, it was probably not enough to stop Marines, nobles, etc. from raiding. Till Ryuma 400 years ago was kind of the kicker, where that was where the legend of samurai just being so strong that it's not worth fucking with kind of came up. Because the Marines were thinking about getting involved in Wano. Like that's always an option. But the thing that stopped them each time that conversation came up in One Piece was, but wait, the samurai are too strong. So it's a combination of the natural like the reason no one goes to Wano today, combination of the natural barriers and the reputation of samurai. I think before Ryuma's time, the natural barriers probably still existed. Again, the flooding maybe wasn't as far along as it is today. But the natural barriers alone were maybe not enough to, like, if it's a land of gold, people really could have pushed to try and get there and invade, etc. So that's my assumptions on those. Because if people are saying Ryuma was around 400 years ago, then it's 400 years ago, right? Can't really argue with that. Umir Ula, thanks for the 5. Didn't mean to take up too much time with the Aokiji rant. No, Aokiji wasn't a rant. I was just going through it. I don't have any negative feelings toward Aokiji. I'm sorry, that didn't mean to come off as a rant. I think Law was a rant. Aokiji, I didn't mean to come off as a rant. I was just like, I was struggling to understand what people, like where people were making the case for Aokiji that didn't come from like just making stuff up, basically. Aokiji still beats Garp because endurance and durability. He was barely hurt by Garp's attacks. Again, like my response to that is like, yeah, but Garp got Garp didn't do either of his strongest attacks on Aokiji. The only one he did seem to rough him up at least somewhat. But again, like Garp didn't do either of his strongest attacks on Aokiji, even though he was clearly fast enough to do so. And then the bigger thing is also Garp got stabbed partway through the fight. Like he was like his health bar then went down to like who knows what, right? Like if he got if he's got literally impaled partway through the fight, then at that point he can't fight Aokiji you're talking about a character that's like severely injured, and you're rating him by like how hard he's hitting after that. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like after Garp got stabbed, that's after that he and Aokiji started trading punches, and they were about even, right? So I'm like, well, if he wasn't stabbed, then wouldn't Garp just be winning those clashes? Not to mention Garp wasn't using either of his galaxy moves against Aokiji. So I feel like it's a huge assumption in my opinion, because it's just to say that Aokiji would just win off of durability and stuff, or like endurance, because to me it's like Oda just didn't have Garp, like he just crippled Garp severely, and then also had Garp deliberately not actually do anything significant attack-wise to Aokiji, and just hold that stuff back. So I'm like, how do we know that? And Garp was keeping up with Aokiji and the entire Blackbeard Pirates at the same time. So to me, it's just like the endurance durability argument. Like I believed that in theory before the fight actually happened, but once the fight started playing out, I'm just like, that doesn't look like this dude seems like he's keeping up just fine to me. Seems like he's holding back. But that's just my take. Yusuf says, I can take Kuzan and Garp being equal, but stamina goes to Kuzan. But I just don't, like, we saw the fight. Like, it doesn't look like they're equal. It looks like they're equal after, like, their punches are equal after Garp got stabbed, right? So, like, he's handicapped, so he's not fighting anywhere close to what he can do, and he's still going toe-to-toe with Aokiji. So it's like, once you nerf Garp, again, like, I just don't really get why people are ignoring everything that happened to Garp over the course of that fight and what he was dealing with. Because I think in almost any other context, people always bring up, yeah, but this character was really injured. Like, Kaido was so injured against Luffy, so, like, he had to be nerfed for Luffy to be able to fight him. But nobody says that for Garp. It's like, yeah, once Garp was injured, like, severely, severely handicapped, now Awakiji's able to trade punches with him. And even then, Garp is not using his strongest attacks, and the moment that he has, like, a speed opportunity, he doesn't do it against. He just moves Kuzan aside and instead attacks Avalo Pizarro. I really don't get it. Like, I would love to understand why people think that it was portrayed as equal, but to me, there's just the only moment of the fight that seemed equal was when they punched each other at the same time. That's the only moment of the fight that it seemed like they were on equal footing. And again, that was like mortally wounded Garp practically fighting close to like fresh Aokiji. So I don't get it. I just don't get it. Umir Ula says he hit him with advanced Conqueror's Haki a few times. What do you mean, Morj? Not Galaxy Impact or Galaxy Divide, though. Like, not his actual moves, you know? Like, he was literally fighting his apprentice with kid gloves, basically. Like, we see the big moves that he can do, and he does not do them against Aokiji. And again, like, I don't know how many times I can say stabbed, but it's just like, he got stabbed by a Yonko first mate with zero defense up. He just got sneak attacked. Like, what's there to say, you know? Like, one character got severely handicapped, the other character wasn't. They're still clashing equally, and to top it off, the handicapped character didn't even use his strongest moves. So I feel like it's a real, like, to me it's just a big stretch. I just don't get how you can say Aokiji is equal to Garp, because it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. You're extending the streams for the fans the way that he extends. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is a topic that we've beaten to death. I just don't get it. Like, I need to see, like, I feel like Aokiji, we need the evidence, right? Like, we need the evidence that like, Garp, there's a ton of evidence, which is that you can see, like, he's either tying or getting the better of Aokiji in every interaction, and that's after being handicapped, and that's after him having to deal with all these other Blackbeard pirates at the same time. So, like, you can find tons of panels of Garp looking really, really good. I don't think there's any evidence that, like, of the hypotheticals that, like, well, if it was a pure 1v1, then just over time, Aokiji would take it through endurance or durability or something, because I just don't think that fight suggested that to me. Like, to me, that fight suggested it's not about endurance and durability. It's like Garp getting handicapped by being stabbed and like other characters attacking him and ganging up on him. That's what'll get Aokiji the win. Because the ice doesn't do anything to him. He just breaks out with Haki. He doesn't even use his strongest attacks against Aokiji. I just, like, I don't know. Again, I thought Aokiji was stronger than Garp going into the fight. I did. I read the fight. I can't find any evidence from the fight that suggests that that would be the case, or that Oda was portraying it in that manner. Yeah. Cigar Verk, thanks for the 5. Oda specifically with the ship punching bag established that both were physically equal. Yeah, but Haki matters. FYI, Ryuma versus the punching is like no Haki, right? Once it comes to Haki, then like Garp's clearly better with Haki, right? FYI, Ryuma versus Shirano is how Shanks fans think Mihawk versus Shanks happened. I think we can assume that Shirano, like, I think Oda just likes, again, I was thinking out loud during it, but the, you know, Mihawk 1.0, like, the prototype Mihawk is a fairly embarrassing character, right? But, I think that the reason that Oda still pulled from that character's design so clearly, I mean, the rumored #1 swordsman and all that, right? Same mystique, epithet, whatever you want to say. I think the reason that Oda pulled from that design for Mihawk in the modern day, who's obviously supposed to be a lot stronger and actually like the world's best swordsman, again, is just because I think Oda liked that dynamic, that contrast of Zoro representing Japanese samurai roots, like that's just what, like, the Bushido style, whatever you want to say, and then Mihawk representing this Spanish conquistador type swordsman, right? Two of the classic styles of two of the classic swordsman styles of history. I think that that's really the two the two archetypes that Oda was kind of drawing on for the contrast. Like Oda didn't just want to have the world's strongest swordsman be just another samurai type. I think he likes that idea that the current world's strongest swordsman is this other type of visual flair for swordsman, this style, this inspiration. So I assume that that's a lot of why Mihawk is the way he is. Yeah, so I wouldn't read too much into it. I do think it's funny that, I think any Mihawk fan watching this would probably be kind of bummed out that that's the initial conception of Mihawk, I suppose. The baby version, All right, guys. I think we're going to call it. John678 says Knights. I would say that Knights are probably the most famous. Well, I mean, I come from like a Western-centric background of culture, right? I grew up in America. So from at least here, I would say that generally, I think in Western media, etc., Knights are the most prevalent sword type historical figures that are frequently portrayed in media, right? Samurai are obviously huge, like, in the West people still love samurai, right? But that's like the niche, the more niche swordsman. Like knights are kind of what people think, like knights and knight type swords, I think, are what is most prominently portrayed in just Western media, right? So that's what I kind of obviously grew up with. I think that the only reason that you're not going to see like a knight type character as the world's strongest swordsman in One Piece is it's just too out of place. Like just this. Well, nothing's out of place in One Piece, but you get what I'm saying. Like knights, like a character wearing like a bunch of armor and like that sailing the seas as a pirate. It's just a different type of vibe than the more like throwing samurai against like a conquistador type Spanish inspired sword fighter, I also think, if we're getting kind of technical with it, knights are like the most famous historical warriors, at least in Western media, etc., right, that you usually see referenced. But at the same time, they don't have that same level, like that same sort of penchant of being these sort of elite fighters. Like you have famous knights that are great warriors, right, like a Lancelot and stuff like that. But I think that in general, the idea of a Spanish sword fighter has the sort of mystique or element to it as being like, a very elite thing. Like those are the very classic, advanced, high level, very developed sword fighters in history. You know what I mean? Like the Spanish inspired influenced sword fighters, right? Kind of like, another example being like musketeers or something. Like there's just a bit more of a romanticized flair to those type of fighters, where knights are kind of the more generic type, if that makes sense. Same with samurai. Like people really, really romanticize samurai. It's just this, like, even though they all fall under the same category of like knights, samurai, musketeers, etc., I think knights are kind of the generic type. It's like any fucker can be like a knight, but it's like, a fucking samurai, that's so badass. Like, like a musketeer or like a elite Spanish sword fighter or whatever. Like, it just gives different vibes based on the certain cultures that are drawn from. So, yeah, I think just the contrast, east-west, whatever you want to call it, and a knight is kind of the boring pick, I suppose you would say. Yeah, and that also makes sense that God's Knights are being reserved for the world government, because it just fits what they're going to represent better, right? Like, Mihawk, it just wouldn't fit for him to be a knight figure, because the entire archetype is kind of reliant on, like, in service of, right? Like that's generally what the knight archetype is built around, right? Cigar Verk, thanks for the 5. Like Kizaru, Kuzan was conflicted, was holding back. Too young, Kuzan was physically equal to Garp. Shik. Okay, we're fitting everything, so let me not just skim through it. Like Kizaru, Kuzan was conflicted, was holding back. Too young, Kuzan. Young Kuzan was physically equal to Garp. Yep, I agree. Peak Kuzan, hockey store has to be greater than old Garp. I see, again, like that's just an assumption to me, because I'm like, Garp can do, like, is Kuzan a Conqueror's hockey user? I don't think so. Garp seems like a much more impressive hockey user from the glimpses that we saw at Hachinosu. Like, Galaxy Impact, Galaxy Divide. That's just, I can't imagine Aokiji doing anything like that. So, like, to me, again, I'm looking for what's the argument like what's the bit of evidence? So the closest thing you brought to evidence there to me was they both were equal when they're punching the ships, right? Battleship bags, right? Are they equal or do they both just use ships as punching bags? I don't know if it's even implied that they're equal at punching the ships. But let's take a look real quick because I'm winding down stream slowly. But let me take a look. But even if they're equal physically, it's like, yeah, but Kobe got there too in terms of punching ships, but Kobe's nowhere near physically as capable as they are. I think it's more just like a testament to their determination. Also Aokiji wasn't equal to Garp at punching the ships. He wasn't even good at it initially. If you go back and look at the panels, he couldn't, like, we actually don't see panels of Aokiji successfully doing the battleship bags. But like we can assume that he got competent at doing it over time. But again, so that's like actually another example where they're not shown to be equal. It's just Aokiji trying to train in the same manner, you know. Again, dude, like it's just not evidence, right? Like the evidence is based on like headcanoning. Like you need evidence that like Garp would run out of endurance or durability or whatever. Like Garp shows crazy durability here, honestly. Like he takes attacks from everybody, like the entire Blackbeard pirate crew. I don't think you can use durability as an argument in, like, if anything, Garp shows far superior durability to Aokiji here, right? So endurance is the only thing you can really say, because like in terms of straight combat, every interaction they have, Garp is better off. Yeah. So to me, it's kind of just like, okay, so if we make a hard assumption that just over time Garp just wouldn't be able to endure against Aokiji, that's kind of what I used to think too. It's just hard for me to make that, like, to actually believe that at this point when he was able to hold out against the entire Blackbeard pirates for a long ass time, like including Aokiji, you know, while injured, while handicapped. By himself against a Yonko crew, I just don't think endurance would be an argument. I feel like if he's against Aokiji by himself, it would be like, what's the evidence that he wouldn't be able to do it? Because he's beating Aokiji in pretty much every interaction. The only time Aokiji's able to match him is one moment where they punch each other, and Garp doesn't use a galaxy attack, right? And that's a Garp that is, again, got a giant hole in his stomach because he just got ambushed. So like, it's not even like what Garp would normally be like against Aokiji. So I don't know. Aokiji takes some advanced Conqueror's Haki and walks off pretty unfazed. I don't think he was unfazed when he came out of the blue hole, and blue hole was just a throw. Again, Aokiji doesn't take Galaxy Impact or Galaxy Divide. He doesn't take any of Garp's actual like big ass Conqueror's Haki moves. He looks really fucking roughed up after or at least somewhat roughed up after the blue hole. He's roughed up after they both trade punches. If Garp was actually using his signature moves, it should be fairly effective, right? Yeah, I don't know. I also don't personally think Garp was using Conquerors when they traded punches, but that's like a gray area. At the very least, he wasn't using a Galaxy attack. Alright, Umair Ula says, why not do an updated top 30? I want to see how Egghead plays out, because at this point, I don't even know where I place, like, where do I place Saturn? I have no idea. I don't know. Alright, guys. Yusuf says, Morj and Galaxy attacks. I mean, doesn't that matter? Like, those are his attacks? Like, those are the big ones? Those are the ones that, like, those are the attacks, you know? Those are the big ones. Yeah. Alright, guys. I think I've covered everything that I can see. Yeah, I think I'm all caught up. Alright, guys. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. for what it was. Yeah, and hopefully we never have to do the phone situation again, but it worked this time, so I count it as a success. And yeah, I will talk to you all later. All right, see you guys.